Black technology, the super empire that spans 2 worlds. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276, 8. 2.5 hours later. Zhang Xingyan found Yan Lingjin again and had a conversation. Lingjin, take this with you. When you return to Fenquin to meet Mr. Xiao, give it to him. As soon as Zhang Xingyan finished speaking, his adjutant carried a delicate briefcase and placed it on the table, opened it, and then left the room. It was the N-800 nano weapon. There were 8 transparent containers in the box, and 10 cold nuclear fusion core engines with a diameter of the size of a fist. At this time, Zhang Xingyan said, each container contains 1 million trillion N-800 nanoparticles, enough to arm 5 N-800 nano-soldiers and their consumable supplies. This is the additional material that the organization decided to provide to Mr. Xiao. The permissions have been initialized and will not be controlled by anyone. There is no backdoor. You must explain this to Mr. Xiao. Yan Lingjin was slightly surprised when she saw it. She originally thought that the headquarters should only provide 1 set of assistants, but she didn't expect to directly provide 5 sets. If the supply problem is not considered, 8 super soldiers can be armed in the extreme case. This is a very powerful armed force. Even in today's Blue Star world, the N-800 nano weapon is a very powerful strategic weapon. Zhang Xingyan added, in addition, we have discussed and confirmed before that a complete set of N-800 equipment production lines will be donated to Mr. Xiao. The headquarters will pack and transport them out in the next few days. When you meet Mr. Xiao, say hello to him and ask him to prepare for the reception. Yan Lingjin closed the box, nodded and said, yes, I understand. Zhang Xingyan smiled and said, this batch of 8 can be regarded as a dowry prepared for you by the organization, haha. Yan Lingjin was stunned for a moment when he heard this. After reacting, he immediately said, the boss is joking, what does this have to do with that? Zhang Xingyan laughed and said, in my opinion, this is the case. You often say that the organization is your second home. Now that you have decided to spend your life with Mr. Xiao, the organization is your mother's home, and this batch of 8 is the dowry prepared by the organization for you, especially the N-800 nano weapons in this box. Their combat power is equivalent to that of 100,000 conventional troops. If it weren't for you, the headquarters would not be willing to spend so much money. Yan Lingjin didn't know how to respond to his words for a while, and Zhang Xingyan said, since Mr. Xiao is interested in developing in the southwest, with this batch of 8, I think it can provide him with a lot of help. Red Tide itself is short of resources, especially the top combat power of N-800. In this case, it can squeeze out enough resources to arm 5 super soldiers. It also hopes to see Xiao Yu rise as soon as possible in the southwest area and become a new force, so that it can fight against strong enemies in the future and help share some pressure. Obviously, Red Tide is also optimistic about Xiao Yu's potential and believes that he will be able to become a climate in the future. After all, there is a way to get so many food supplies and grain seeds with breeding ability. With this point, it is not difficult to develop a strong force. Maybe there will be some conflicts of interest between the 2 sides in the future, but that is also something to be considered in the future. And the current main contradiction is the Kingdom of Heaven, which is the ruling group of the continents of the Blue Star world. In this regard, Red Tide has a clear understanding, knows what the main contradiction is now, and also knows who is the enemy and who is the friend. At the end, Zhang Xingyan suddenly asked curiously, oh, by the way, Lingjin, how are you and Mr. Xiao getting along? How is the progress? After saying this, Yan Lingjin suddenly felt embarrassed and couldn't help but said, boss, are personal matters also within the scope of work reports? Zhang Xingyan smiled and said frankly, it is not only your personal matter, but also an important matter for the organization. Although the relationship between you and Mr. Xiao did not originate from a political marriage, in a sense, it can be regarded as an indirect marriage with strong political attributes. Then, Zhang Xingyan added, of course, this is definitely not within the scope of work reports. Although the relationship between you and Mr. Xiao objectively has a huge impact on our business, we cannot lose our humanity because of it. Yan Lingjin also understood that what Zhang Xingyan said was not wrong. This is also an objective fact. She and Xiao Yu, their respective identities and positions are there. Xiao Yu is now in a state of deep cooperation with Qichao, and Yan Lingjun has also skipped a level and entered the Chicheo Central Headquarters. Under such objective circumstances, the private affairs of two people are destined to be not as pure as those of ordinary people, and may even affect the direction of many things. After a moment, Yan Lingjun slowly said, "This is not something that cannot be said. I have made good progress with him, and he is also very good to me. He is a person worthy of entrusting my life." Hearing this, Zhang Xingyuan nodded happily and said, That's good, that's good." After talking for a while, Yan Lingjun said goodbye and took the suitcase away. She had completed the report work of this trip and was ready to leave the headquarters and return to Fenquin City. Yan Lingjun's current level in the Red Tide is very high. It is predetermined that she will enter the central headquarters sooner or later. To be precise, she is already one of the key members of the central headquarters, but she does not work in the headquarters, but continues to stay on the front line. During the return to Fenquin City, she was also protected. The disguised female warrior who escorted her was the N-800 nano-armed super female warrior who arrived in time to save the scene during the trip to Qingyang town. Lingjun is now also a key member of the organization, and she will become Xiao Yu's wife, and she is working on the front line. "Boss, should we consider arranging a set of N-800 nano-weapons for her?" The adjutant looked at Zhang Xingyuan and said so. The N-800 nano-weapons are not only terrifying in combat power, but can also make mortal bodies comparable to gods. It is also a very excellent means of protection. Hearing this, Zhang Xingyuan nodded. She should be equipped with a set, but don't worry, maybe Xiao Yu will arrange it for her. The adjutant heard this and pondered it secretly. Then he had a sudden feeling and understood the intention of his boss. This is to see how much Xiao Yu values Yan Lingjun. The N-800 nano-weapons are very precious strategic items. If Xiao Yu cares about Yan Lingjun's safety, then the 5 sets of N-800 nano-weapons that were assisted by the Red Tide this time will definitely be given to Yan Lingjun to protect her safety. Obviously, Zhang Xingyuan also wants to know how important Yan Lingjun is in Xiao Yu's heart, because this is also a very important reference for judging cooperation with Xiao Yu. After a while, the adjutant couldn't help but ask, "But what if Xiao Yu didn't make any arrangements for her?" Zhang Xingyuan said straightforwardly, "Then we should prepare a set of logistics. No matter what, Lingjun's safety cannot be missed. She is the key bridge for our cooperation with Xiao Yu. This is of great benefit to our cause. To maintain and consolidate the results of our cooperation, ensuring her safety is essential." Chapter 277, Tri-Arming. At the same time, Xiao Yu in Fenquin City was not idle either. This time he came to the Blue Star world not only to deliver goods, but also to purchase goods. On the day when Yan Lingjun went to the headquarters to report, Xiao Yu also arranged for Luo Guanqi, the general manager of Prism Company, to purchase refined room-temperature superconducting materials, ultra-high-quality purity graphene materials, etc. 2 days later, Yan Lingjun also returned to Fenquin City smoothly. She met Xiao Yu as soon as she came back. In the villa residence, the two stayed in a room. Yan Lingjun opened the box she brought back and said, "This is the N-800 nano-armament. Each tube container contains 1 million trillion nanoparticles. A total of 5 N-800 nano-armed super soldiers can be built for you, as well as the required nanoparticle supplies." Yan Lingjun briefly described the situation of these N-800 nano-armaments assisted by the headquarters to Xiao Yu in detail one by one. At this moment, Xiao Yu's eyes lit up. This is a generous gesture. It is no exaggeration to say that just 5 N-800 super soldiers are definitely enough to sweep a medium-sized country in their hometown on Earth. This equipment is really too supermodel. Yan Lingjun looked up at him and smiled. In addition, a complete set of N-800 equipment production lines will be packed. The headquarters is already preparing for this matter. You are ready to receive the work. No problem, just send it to this place when the time comes. Xiao Yu nodded immediately, and gave Yan Lingjun a location information, and the latter also wrote it down. Xiao Yu looked at the N-800 nano-weapons in the box again. He looked at one of the transparent containers and was amazed. This container only has a volume of 400 milliliters, and a full 100 trillion nanoparticles can be put into such a small container. What are you going to do with it? Yan Lingjun on the side couldn't help but ask curiously. Hearing this, Xiao Yu pondered for a moment, then looked at Yan Lingjun. This is a very good means of protection. You should carry a set with you in the future. If you encounter any sudden crisis, it can ensure your safety and I can rest assured. Yan Lingjun's eyes flashed with surprise, and a sweet feeling of happiness suddenly rose in her heart. But she immediately said, "It's just for my safety. This is too extravagant. It can be used elsewhere to play a greater value." Xiao Yu shook his head and said affirmatively, "In my eyes, being able to protect your safety is its greatest value. Compared with you, everything else is not important." Yan Lingjun couldn't help but blush after hearing this. Xiao Yu said again, "It's decided. Come on, try to arm yourself." Seeing Xiao Yu like this, Yan Lingjun didn't refuse. He nodded slightly and said, "Yeah." After a while, Xiao Yu took out one of the transparent containers. He had known how to use it by reading the data disk given by Yan Lingjun in the past few days. It was actually very simple. The nanoparticles in the transparent container carry a certain amount of energy, and they need the cold nuclear fusion core engine to really work. Xiao Yu opened the transparent container and saw a group of nanoparticles emitting a faint blue light pouring out of the container. As if they had life, they gathered into a group, spinning and flickering in the air, like a twinkling nebula, and seemed to be looking for a target. At this time, Xiao Yu looked at Yan Lingjun and said, "Hurry up, you should know its characteristics better than me. Now there is no energy support from the core engine. They start to consume their own energy when they are released from the reactor. Once the energy is exhausted, they can't maintain this state for a long time." Yan Lingjun nodded, and then slowly stretched out a hand, and the fingertips touched the floating group of nanoparticles. The next moment, when it touched Yan Lingjun's fingers, the group of nanoparticles quickly rushed to her hand and covered the surface of her skin. "What do you feel?" Xiao Yu couldn't help asking when he saw this. He didn't worry about the problem with the nanoparticles. After all, Yan Lingjun was an important member of the Red Tide, and this was also a product produced by the organization itself. "There is a slight tingling sensation on the skin where the nanoparticles are attached," Yan Lingjun said lightly with her almond-shaped lips slightly parted. She was also very surprised because this was her first time using this high-tech product. Then, the nanoparticles attached to the surface of her skin flowed into her body through the pores on her skin like water and entered the blood circulation system. The tingling sensation quickly spread throughout her body. It was a wonderful feeling that made her a little nervous and quite excited. After about half a minute, the tingling sensation all over her body disappeared. At this time, there were about 100 trillion nanoparticles scattered throughout Yan Lingjun's body, flowing in the blood vessels throughout the body along with the blood circulation system, spreading to every corner of the body. She knew that these nanoparticles had entered her blood circulation system and began to synchronize with her body. Xiao Yu immediately picked up one of the cold nuclear fusion cores and handed it to her. In fact, it was some isotopic materials of hydrogen that provided nuclear fusion. The real fusion device was constructed by nanoparticle mimicry. Xiao Yu smiled and said, "It is written in the manual that you can interact with it only through brain waves. With the energy support provided by the core engine, you can complete the arming. Give it a try." Yan Lingjun nodded and took the giant core he handed over. Then he put it close to the middle of her chest and concentrated on interacting with the nanoparticles. Suddenly, she felt that there seemed to be something more in her body, a feeling of being closely connected to her body. That was the internal arming. The nanoparticles, like loyal guards, began to wrap every cell tissue, forming an invisible but tough protective barrier. At the same time, the external arming was also in progress. In the blink of an eye, nanoparticles gushed out from her skin, first spreading to the core engine in her chest, and nanoparticles were gushing out from all parts of her body, like flowing metal liquid, flashing a strange luster. At the microscopic level, countless nanoparticles are like building blocks to build a fine structure, forming an exoskeleton at the macroscopic level. The nanoparticles quickly condensed into an exoskeleton suit, and fit perfectly on her body, as if it was a second layer of skin tailored for her. The N800 nano exoskeleton suit on Yan Lingjun exudes a faint luster, and the surface flows with delicate textures, as if it were solidified from liquid metal, and every detail is exquisite. The nanoparticles condensed into a pair of exquisite arm guards, with complex geometric patterns carved on the surface. These patterns flickered slightly with her movements, as if they were breathing. The unique patterns on the shoulders and arms of the exoskeleton suit not only increase the beauty, but also provide additional protection and strength support in battle. The waist is very thin, highlighting Yan Lingjun's perfect body curves. The nanoparticles formed an exquisite full-coverage helmet mask on her head, and a pair of narrow eyes lit up, slightly glowing with blue light, as if with a hint of coldness, but not without tenderness. Xiao Yu was also amazed when he saw Yan Lingjun transform in front of him. Yan Lingjun, who had completed the nano-armor, seemed like a heroic female warrior from the future. It is a perfect fusion of strength and beauty. It is worthy of being the pinnacle of blue star technology. Xiao Yu looked at it with appreciation. The so-called higher the appearance, the stronger the combat power, which was perfectly interpreted at this moment. Yan Lingjun is not a combatant. Her specialty is not on the front line, but behind the enemy lines. However, the powerful part of the N800 nano-armor is that it can increase the combat power of an ordinary person. The nano-armored exoskeleton of the externally armed nano-combat suit is shining, and it also fits Yan Lingjun's body curve perfectly, with a different kind of sci-fi beauty. After a while, Yan Lingjun closed the helmet mask, and it quickly flowed away like liquid metal. Xiao Yu looked at her with a smile and said, "How do you feel?" Yan Lingjun raised her hand, examined herself for a while in the exoskeleton and a combat suit she was wearing, then looked up at Xiao Yu and smiled. "It feels like a part of my body." The two are perfectly integrated together. Chapter 278, Only when you make it yourself can you use it with confidence. This is Yan Lingjun's first time to experience N800 nano-arms. Judging from her current reaction, she obviously likes it very much. It is worth mentioning that the powerful mimicry ability of N800 nano-arms can quickly construct various physical entities from the microscopic level. As long as you have the data information of a physical entity, you can quickly mimic it. It can be a variety of offensive weapons, such as cold weapons and hot weapons. It can also mimic defensive equipment. How rich the equipment can be mimicked depends on the diversity of the database. And this powerful mimicry ability can of course construct and generate a variety of clothing outfits, which can be called a versatile dressing artifact, but it is a bit too extravagant to wear N800 nano-arms as clothes. Yan Lingjun turned off the external armament, and the exoskeleton nano-combat suit quickly disappeared from her body as if it was degraded. In fact, this process is that the physical structure built by nanoparticles begins to disintegrate rapidly at the microscopic level, restores to the most basic nanoparticle unit, and re-infiltrates into the blood circulation system in the body. The miniaturized fusion core engine is mainly composed of core materials, which are the fuel for nuclear fusion, that is, some hydrogen isotopes. The structure that can really promote the fusion reaction is directly assembled by nanoparticle mimicry. It can be said that it is ready to use and assembled. Nuclear fusion has no radiation pollution, which allows the miniaturized giant core to be worn directly on the body. At this moment, Xiao Yu took out 2 tubes of N800 nanoparticles and 2 fusion cores from the box, and then said to Yan Lingjun, "Keep the rest." Yan Lingjun was slightly stunned. "I keep it?" Xiao Yu nodded. "Isn't the matter of developing power in the Southwest Territory handed over to you? Find 3 reliable candidates, and then arm them with N800 to assist you in establishing our power base in the Southwest Territory." Xiao Yu had already decided to hand this matter over to Yan Lingjun. She is a native of the Blue Star world, and she must know more about many situations than Xiao Yu. The N800 nano-armed weapons were given to other people, and there was no need to worry about the other party's rebellion. Although this equipment is extremely powerful, as long as the control is in Yan Lingjun's hands, he can control their life and death. The nanoparticles in the blood circulation system can protect the carrier, and in turn can kill it instantly, and it is destroyed at the cellular level. This is also the fundamental reason why the N800 nano-armed super soldiers will hardly betray their superiors. It is difficult for the enemy to kill them, but their own superiors can easily take their lives. Although Yan Lingjun said that the batch of N800 nano-armed weapons that were provided had been initialized, Xiao Yu actually believed that there was no problem. But even so he still did not dare to take the risk of using the original body. It is necessary to be on guard against others. Xiao Yu is now as stable as an old man. Only when he made it himself can he use it with complete confidence. When Yan Lingjun heard what Xiao Yu said, he nodded suddenly and said, "Well, okay." At this time, Xiao Yu thought about it for a moment, then pretended to be curious and asked, "Oh, by the way, if we do it, will the dormant nanoparticles in your blood circulation system penetrate into my body in the process?" There is no introduction to this in the data disk you gave me. After hearing this, Yan Lingjun was slightly stunned. After reacting, he immediately rolled his eyes at him and said unhappily, "You guy, what are you thinking about in your head? It's so ridiculous. You can think of it. How could such a thing be mentioned in the data disk?" However, Yan Lingjun paused for a moment, and suddenly said seriously, "In theory, it is possible, as long as the controller of the nanoparticles intentionally guides it." Xiao Yu nodded. "That's right, The characteristics of nanoparticles are there, and they can penetrate into any living body. At this time, Yan Lingjun looked at Xiao Yu coquettishly, and said with interest, "How about we give it a try?" Xiao Yu hesitated for a moment, but at this moment, Yan Lingjun chuckled and said, "I was just kidding you. I know you asked that ridiculous question just now because you are worried that the organization has tampered with the N-800 weapons provided by the organization. Am I right?" Xiao Yu immediately laughed dryly and lowered his head to touch his nose, trying to hide his embarrassment, but he didn't expect that she saw through him at a glance. At this time, Yan Lingjun looked at him and said slowly, "There is indeed no problem with the N-800 nano-weapons provided by the organization, but I also understand you. It is difficult to achieve great things without this stability." This made Xiao Yu speechless for a moment, and then he smiled and nodded, "Yeah." At this moment, Yan Lingjun slowly raised a slender hand, and the nanoparticles in her body quickly flowed out of the skin pores in the palm of her hand, and gathered into a group outside the body, like a nebula emitting faint light floating above her palm. Xiao Yu was confused, not knowing what she was going to do. Yan Lingjun guided the nanoparticles back into the original container. Xiao Yu looked puzzled and said, "What is this for? Why do you want to guide the nanoparticles out of the body?" After guiding the nanoparticles into the container and putting them aside, Yan Lingjun turned around and looked at Xiao Yu with a smile. Then she came to sit in front of him and put her slender hands on his shoulders. "Of course, it's to dispel your concerns about doing that." Yan Lingjun leaned forward slightly and stared at Xiao Yu, saying in a thin voice. Xiao Yu suddenly realized it, and seeing Yan Lingjun's watery eyes staring at him with expectation, she had even guided all the N-800 nanoparticles out. What she wanted now was self-evident and she didn't hide it. After tasting the wonderful experience like a dream, she couldn't forget it. She had been thinking about it for a long time. Xiao Yu looked at her silently for a moment without saying anything, and immediately took action without saying anything, as she wished. In the following days, Xiao Yu continued to stay in the Blue Star world for a while, waiting for Luo Guanqi to prepare the purchases he listed, mainly room-temperature superconducting materials, which would take some time. Xiao Yu was not in a hurry. There was a 500-fold flow rate difference between the two worlds. Even if he stayed in the Blue Star world for a few months and then returned to Earth, only a few hours would have passed. During these days, Yan Lingjun also lived with Xiao Yu. And Yan Lingjun also became more and more radiant. It was indeed different after being nourished. Now she was particularly proactive in that matter, and she made Xiao Yu look passive. Time passed, and Xiao Yu also stayed in the Blue Star world for 20 sunshine cycles. The N-800 nano-armed equipment production line has been transferred to the place you specified. When will you take it away? Yan Lingjun came back from get-off work at Prism Company. She is now living in Xiao Yu's private villa. Her public identity is the company's executive and Xiao Yu's girlfriend. Well, in the next 2 days, I will arrange for someone to transport it away. Xiao Yu, who was sitting in the living room, responded casually. Yan Lingjun changed into home clothes and walked slowly to the living room. He sat down next to Xiao Yu and looked at him with some curiosity. "What do you ask Luo Guanqi to purchase those materials for? What do you want to do with products like room temperature superconductors and graphene? What do you want these industrial raw materials for?" Hearing this, Xiao Yu lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then looked at Yan Lingjun and said slowly, "I don't want to make up lies to evade your questions, but there are some things I can't tell you. Maybe one day in the future you will know, or maybe never." Before he finished speaking, Yan Lingjun suddenly stretched out a slender hand, put 2 fingers together, made a silencing gesture at the corner of Xiao Yu's mouth, and stared at him deeply. "I believe you don't want to tell me, but you can't. There must be a compelling reason. I don't need to know why, but I want to know what you need because I want to help you." After these words came out, facing Yan Lingjun's understanding and tolerance of him, as well as his unreserved trust, especially when the words "I want to help you" were said with deep affection, Xiao Yu couldn't help but be moved. Finally, Xiao Yu couldn't help but hold her in his arms and slowly said one word, "Okay." Chapter 279, Let the Avatar-armed N-800 Try Its Hands. Xiao Yu had actually been thinking about how to deal with Yan Lingjun if he noticed some of his abnormal behavior in the future. After all, after a long time, some abnormal behavior will definitely be noticed. However, now it seems that this worry is unnecessary. Xiao Yu feels that the wisest and most correct choice he made in the Blue Star world is to choose Yan Lingjun. Such a good man is really hard to come by. The next day, Xiao Yu went to receive the entire set of N800 nano-armed equipment production line and transferred it to his underground secret base on the Earth. At the same time, Yan Lingjun was also helping to prepare and purchase the materials on the purchase list listed by Xiao Yu. She didn't know what Xiao Yu was going to use these materials for, but she helped him with all her heart, and never asked why in the future. Lin's House City on Earth, underground secret base. Xiao Yu transferred the entire set of N800 nano-armed equipment production lines from the Blue Star world to the underground secret base in Lin's House, but to build the entire production line, it was necessary to expand the space inside the base. Xiao Lan, deconstruct all the information in the data disk, then archive it, and check the production equipment to see if there are any loopholes. If not, prepare to build the production line. Xiao Yu took out the data disk and threw it to a robot next to him while speaking. Xiao Lan controlled the robot to issue instructions, docked the data disk with a base system center, and began to fully scan the information in the data disk. At the same time, Xiao Yu took out a tube of nanoparticle containers loaded with 100 trillion nanoparticles. He decided to give it a try, but he didn't use his original body, but one of his incarnations. Even if there is a problem, at most he would lose an incarnation. Moreover, Xiao Yu came to Earth specifically to do this. As long as the teleportation stargate is closed, the connection between the two worlds of Blue Star and Earth will be completely cut off. Even if there is any backdoor left in secret, no instructions can be received. With double insurance, Xiao Yu no longer has any doubts. At this moment, he controlled the incarnation to open the transparent container, and saw the nanoparticles inside clump together and pour out, like a fluid, emitting a faint light and flowing irregularly in the air, but no matter how it flows, it all clumps together. Xiao Lan, monitor the avatar's vital signs, Xiao Yu, the original body, said, and his avatar raised his hand to touch the suspended nanoparticle group. The next moment, these nanoparticles quickly penetrated into the body along the surface of the skin on his hand. It was indeed a tingling sensation, and Xiao Yu himself could also feel it. The nanoparticles penetrated into the body and quickly entered the blood circulation system. As the blood circulated, millions of nanoparticles were distributed throughout the body. Finally, Xiao Yu's avatar picked up the fusion core and issued instructions through brain waves. After obtaining energy support, the internal arming was carried out rapidly. From a microscopic perspective, the seemingly disordered nanoparticles quickly constructed countless ordered regular hexagonal microstructures. The inherent geometric properties and symmetry of the hexagon are a stable structure, because its shape and structure can maximize the balance of internal forces, thereby reducing the distortion and deformation of the structure. The microstructure constructed by nanoparticles is not only a regular hexagon, but also other microstructures, which in turn form a more complex physical structure. In this way, every cell tissue in the body is like a nanoskeleton, protecting every cell. At the macro level, the strength of the entire organic life form has been incredibly enhanced. Like a body of steel, 99.99% of the energy impact from external attacks can be absorbed by the nano-armed structure, thus preventing the organic life form from being damaged. At the macro level, as long as the destructive force from the outside does not exceed the critical value that the nanostructure can withstand, it is equivalent to being immune to all means of attack, and the face can be unscathed even if the shell is received. Even if the organic life form is damaged, such as a damaged organ or a ruptured artery, the powerful nano-mimicry ability of the N800 nano-armed can quickly mimic the cell structure and temporarily replace the damaged organ until the organ is repaired. Even if an entire organ is destroyed, such as a large hole in the heart is directly destroyed. The nano-mimicry ability can directly and quickly construct a mimic heart from the microscopic scale, and it has all the functions of an organic heart, temporarily replacing the organic heart in an emergency. And it can deceive the body's immune system, thereby avoiding the rejection reaction of the body's immune system. The same is true for other body organs, which can all mimic corresponding nanocells to form tissues and organs. The N800 nano-armed can have such a mimicry and replication ability, which is also due to the development of life sciences in the Blue Star world, and the deconstruction and cognition of the human body far exceeds that of Earth civilization. This powerful mimicry and replication ability has a prerequisite, that is, to know the detailed information of the mimicry and replication object. The N800 nano-armed has collected the information data of various organs and tissues of the human body, so it can quickly mimic and construct various cells, tissues, and organs with the same functions as organic cells. In addition, the wearer who has completed the N800 nano-armed can turn all indicators into numerical monsters, and the speed, strength, etc. have increased exponentially. However, strictly speaking, it is not the wearer's own indicators that have increased sharply, but the N800 nano-armed itself has that strength, but it is indirectly reflected through the wearer. If the N800 nano-armed is separated from the wearer, this person will still be a weak chicken. At this moment, Xiao Yu, incarnation, completed the internal armament, and then the external armament was quickly completed. A set of exoskeleton nano-armor wrapped his whole body. This is the romance of men. Xiao Yu looked at the exoskeleton nano-armor he was wearing, which was full of futuristic science fiction and was so handsome that he was very excited at the moment. After a while, Xiao Yu said, "Xiao Lan, load the function data of N800 and I will see what I can do." Xiao Lan immediately responded, "Received, please wait." After about 2 minutes, the data loading was completed and displayed in front of Xiao Yu's vision. The next moment, Xiao Yu, who was wearing N800 nano armor, was standing on the ground. At this time, his feet suddenly left the ground and the whole body floated up. And he moved at will. The control method is the quality of the brain electrical signal. In plain words, it is to think with the brain, just like the brain controls its hands and feet to make physical movements. Superconducting floating, Xiao Yu was amazed. He saw that his mind moved and the whole person could float slowly in the air at will. His suspended flight at this moment is the activation of the superconducting state by the N800 nano weapon. This is actually a very simple function. You should know that many materials that cannot be superconducting under normal circumstances can also have superconducting properties under some special environments. For black technology such as the N800 nano weapon, there is no technical difficulty at all to achieve the superconducting state. And at this moment, it is reflected in Xiao Yu, that is, he can directly suspend the whole person in the air and fly at will. Thinking of flying, Xiao Yu couldn't help but move his heart, and said to himself, "What does it feel like to fly at a speed of 60 Mach?" Xiao Yu came up with this idea, and he did it immediately. He decided to experience super speed flight first, and immediately opened the teleportation stargate, and transferred himself from the underground base to the ground through the blue star world. After a while, in the wild uninhabited area of the African continent, Xiao Yu, incarnation, stepped out of the teleportation stargate and came to grassland. Chapter 280, Excited Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu walked slowly on the African savanna. It was the rainy season in May, and the savanna was full of vitality, with green trees and lush grass. At this time, Xiao Yu, the incarnation, only maintained the state of internal armament, and withdrew the exoskeleton nano-armor outside the body. This time, he was armed with the N800 nano-armor worn by the incarnation. Xiao Yu naturally had no worries, and it was okay to do whatever he wanted without any worries. "Master, a group of lions are detected nearby, and they are approaching you," Xiao Lan's voice sounded. The pre-visual information data appeared on Xiao Yu's retinas, and several red dots were marked on the map, showing that 6 lions were lurking and approaching him. "Don't worry about them," Xiao Yu said calmly, "let's try the effect." As soon as the voice fell, Xiao Yu completely ignored the lions lurking close to him. He looked up at the sky and then slightly bent his body. At this time, the N800 nanoparticles armed in the body had kept pace with him. Xiao Yu groaned, and suddenly jumped with his legs. The mud under his feet cracked, and the mud splashed everywhere. With a dull sound, his whole figure jumped into the air. This jump easily reached a terrifying height of more than 300 meters. Several lions were frightened by the sound of the ground exploding and retreated everywhere. After reaching the top, Xiao Yu fell in a parabola. Fuck. This terrifying explosive power, amazing. Xiao Yu was also shocked. His adrenaline also soared at this moment, and even the original body was excited. Because of all this, the original body also felt the same. When he fell back to the ground, he instantly smashed a big hole in the landing position, and Xiao Yu also arched his body and jumped again, accompanied by the splashing dust and dull sound, and jumped into the sky again. Woohoo, haha. Xiao Yu was already as excited as a child, galloping freely on this uninhabited vast African savanna. After landing for the 3rd time, he jumped again with a charge, and soared into the sky. Xiao Yu, who was in the air, immediately said, "Xiao Lan, start the flight mode." Obviously, he put Xiao Lan in it to assist his intelligent AI assistant, and the positioning was similar to Jarvis and Iron Man. Just as he finished speaking, the jump just reached the top, and then was pulled down by gravity. At the same time, the nano-armor in the body was unfolding, and the leg mimicry generated power engine device, and communicated with a fusion core engine to start outputting energy. Just when Xiao Yu was only 20 meters away from the ground and was about to fall to the ground, the nano-mimetic power engine started, instantly providing huge thrust. Xiao Yu, who had completed the nano-armor in the body, instantly flew forward at high speed. He clearly felt the powerful invisible force pushing him forward. Bang! In an instant, a sonic boom sounded suddenly, and Xiao Yu's flying speed broke through the speed of sound in seconds. Looking at the real-time data displayed in front of him, Xiao Yu saw that the overload G value suddenly soared from less than 2 G values to more than 50 G values, because his acceleration just now reached a terrifying 550 meters per second. If it weren't for the protection of the N800 nano-armament, he would have been killed on the spot. Such an overload G value has far exceeded the critical value of human organic life. Ordinary people can't stand 3 to 5 G overloads. But at this moment, Xiao Yu didn't have much discomfort, just felt that his body was pushed by a powerful invisible force, and it was a bit dull. It was said to be long, but it only happened in a short 2 or 3 seconds. At this time, Xiao Lan's voice came to remind, the speed has reached Mach 5, in just about 3 seconds, it has accelerated to Mach 5. This value can be called explosive. The X-15 test aircraft built by Lau Mei is used to study the aerodynamic characteristics of high-speed flight. The acceleration performance of this test aircraft is very amazing. It only takes a few minutes to go from static to Mach 6.7. But in front of the N800 nano-armed nano-mimic power engine, it is not enough, and the acceleration per second directly breaks the speed of sound. Xiao Yu became more and more excited. Keep accelerating. At this moment, Xiao Yu was flying at a very low altitude over the vast African savanna, and his speed was soaring, accelerating at 1.5 Mach per second. The back half of his body at the waist position was wrapped in the sonic boom cloud. From the side, the back half of his body was like being covered by an equilateral triangle of white fog. Xiao Yu's current flight altitude is too low, and the bottom of the sonic boom cloud touches the ground, causing the flight trajectory along the way to produce a straight gully several meters deep and wide, and dust splash everywhere where the flight passed. However, in this place in Africa, and it is also the rainy season now, Xiao Yu is not worried about these traces left behind, and a heavy rain can flatten them. The speed has reached 7.5 Mach, Xiao Lan reported. Speed up, keep accelerating, Xiao Yu said excitedly, and as soon as the voice fell, he suddenly couldn't help but subconsciously turned his head and looked back. It would not have mattered if he had not turned his head, but something went wrong. Flying at such a high speed, the influence of air resistance was extremely huge. When he turned his head like this, his original flying posture was instantly broken, and it was an ultra-low altitude flight state. Xiao Yu himself was also trying it for the first time and was not yet proficient. As a result, he hit the ground face first, and the whole person instantly crashed into large holes one after another. From a distance, it looked like he was playing with water, but at this moment, Xiao Yu was playing with land drifting. There was a thick tree along the way, and Xiao Yu's whole body directly hit the tree stump. The tree was like paper and was instantly smashed to pieces. At this time, Xiao Yu was still stumbling all the way under the inertial kinetic energy, and he stopped only when he was nearly 10 kilometers away from the first time he hit the ground, because he hit a small mound of earth and slowed down to zero, and also blasted a large hole. After a while, Xiao Yu climbed out of the pit intact, muttering, "I was careless." Then, Xiao Yu said, "Xiao Lan, check your body." Xiao Lan quickly replied, "Master, you only suffered some skin injuries, and your overall vital signs are stable." Xiao Yu was immediately amazed. "It's okay, it's not dead. N800 is really awesome." Without the protection of the N800's internal weapons, Xiao Yu's incarnation would have been dead, but now it only suffered some skin injuries, and just when Xiao Yu muttered this sentence, the N800 nano-weapons had quickly repaired the skin injuries through mimicry. In other words, it is now full of blood. Come again. As soon as Xiao Yu finished speaking, he jumped up again, flew vertically to the sky, and continued to accelerate. Mach 5. Mach 8. Mach 13. Mach 15. When the speed reached Mach 25, The friction between Xiao Yu's exoskeleton nano-armor and the atmosphere produced a fire, like a dazzling stream of light rushing straight into the sky. At this time, Xiao Lan continued to issue reminders. The current speed has reached Mach 30. This speed is already the first cosmic speed, and it is still accelerating at a terrifying acceleration of 1.5 Mach per second. As it continued to rise, the originally flat land gradually showed a spherical surface, and as the altitude continued to rise, the spherical shape of the Earth became more and more obvious, and the undulating mountains and land on the ground became smoother and smoother. At this moment, Xiao Yu, who was in an excited state, shouted, "Speed up, keep accelerating," and rushed directly into outer space. Chapter 281, Entering Outer Space. Xiao Yu asked Xiao Lan to be the intelligent auxiliary AI of the N800 nano-armor. When he heard this, he immediately responded. The N800 nano-armor quickly mimicked and generated an air compression collection device. During the flight, the air in the atmosphere was collected along the way, and then the oxygen was retained and compressed and liquefied. At the same time, other gases were filtered out to retain pure oxygen, so that Xiao Yu could have oxygen to breathe when entering outer space. The current speed has reached 50 Mach. Master, your current speed has exceeded the third cosmic speed, Xiao Lan prompted. The third cosmic speed is 16.7 kilometers per second, which is about 49.12 Mach. When the third cosmic speed is broken, it means that not only can it easily get rid of the shackles of gravity, but also the gravitational shackles of the solar system's parent star, and can enter the vast interstellar space. But this is far from the limit of the N800 nano-armor. Speed up, add to the maximum speed, Xiao Yu said decisively, using an avatar. He really had no scruples and just wanted to play an extreme game. His speed continued to maintain 1.5 Mach per second and continued to accelerate. This acceleration can only be described as outrageous. It only takes 40 seconds to accelerate from 0 to 60 Mach. After 6 or 7 seconds, Xiao Lan reminded again, the current speed has reached the maximum speed of 60 Mach, and the current altitude exceeds 40 kilometers. Master, you are about to fly out of the stratosphere and enter the mesosphere. It took about 40 seconds, less than a minute, to accelerate from 0 to 60 Mach. During this period, he flew a distance of more than 40 kilometers. After breaking through the speed of 60 Mach, he now flies 20.4 kilometers in 1 second. It means that in about 2 seconds, he can fly the 40 kilometers that took 40 seconds to fly during the previous acceleration. Cool, haha. At this moment, Xiao Yu's face was full of excitement. He had never thought that one day he would be able to fly so freely and unrestrainedly in the sky. The desire for flying is engraved in the bones of human beings. Because it is destined to be impossible to do it by themselves, they have infinite longing for it. Only about 2 seconds later, Xiao Lan reminded again, Master, the current position is in near space. You are about to cross the Kármán line and officially enter outer space. Xiao Lan's reminder sound just fell. Xiao Yu's altitude at this moment exceeded 100 kilometers. The speed is too exaggerated. At the top speed of 60 Mach, a distance of 100 kilometers only takes 5 seconds. When Xiao Yu flew out of an altitude of 100 kilometers, it also meant that he officially broke through the Kármán line and entered outer space. The so-called Kármán line is the boundary between the atmosphere and space defined by the academic community. From an altitude of 100 kilometers, an altitude exceeding 100 kilometers is considered to have entered outer space. At the same time, after Xiao Yu crossed the Kármán line, the flames that originally surrounded the whole body of the exoskeleton nano-armor that was armed in vitro also disappeared. Because it has left the core area of the Earth's atmosphere, after crossing the Kármán line, the air resistance can basically be ignored and no longer produce friction with the atmosphere. Flying at a speed of 60 Mach, if it maintains this speed, it will enter the Earth's escape layer in half a minute, which means it can fly directly out of the Earth. At such an exaggerated speed, it only takes 2,000 seconds, or 1 hour, to fly around the Earth's equator. After a while, Xiao Yu immediately decelerated to the first cosmic speed, otherwise he would really fly out of the Earth. According to the data displayed on the front panel, when Xiao Yu decelerated, his overload G value instantly soared from 0 to 55 G values, and at the peak, it soared to 98.8 G values for 3 or 4 seconds, and then the G value began to decrease. About 20 seconds later, Xiao Yu's relative speed dropped to about 8 kilometers per second, which is about 23.5 Mach. It only took 20 seconds to decelerate from the extreme speed of 60 Mach to 23.5 Mach. In other words, the N-800 nano-weapon can decelerate from 60 Mach to 0 within half a minute, and in these 20 seconds, Xiao Yu endured an average overload of 60 G values. Is this the pinnacle of blue star technology? It's outrageous. Even Xiao Yu couldn't help but swear, because he was fine. During the period of bearing such a terrifying overload G value, he found that he was just a little dull. You know, the maximum G value that ordinary people can withstand in a short period of time is about 5 G overload, while specially trained fighter pilots can withstand 10 to 12 G values. Overloads of more than 20 G values will cause extremely serious damage to the human body, and even kill on the spot. Whether it is the high overload acceleration in front or the high overload deceleration just now, normal humans can't bear it at all. Xiao Yu, incarnation, can be safe and sound at this moment, all thanks to the internal armed protection of the N-800 nano-armed body. Xiao Lan responded, Master, your current altitude is about 400 kilometers. At this moment, Xiao Yu maintains a relative speed of 8 kilometers per second to orbit the Earth, but there is no reference system around him, making him seem to be at rest in outer space, and the speed is relative and depends on the reference system. Xiao Yu's current location is just above the Asian continent, and near the Terminator, while East Asia is still in the night. It must be said that Xiao Yu's current location is reflected by the Terminator's light curtain, as if he is quietly bathing in the holy light of the sun. From the perspective of the other side, the handsomeness of his composition can be said to be quite explosive. Xiao Yu silently looked at the Asian continent, the Chinese land under the night sky, and the night scene of the lights of the city clusters on the 9.6 million square kilometers of the territory were gorgeous and dazzling, like the Milky Way pouring down on the Chinese land, brilliant and shocking. After a while, Xiao Yu couldn't help but notice the South Asian subcontinent. He looked down at the night scene of Sanji's house from space and couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. He shook his head and said with a smile, I didn't expect Lao Mei to fake even the satellite night scene map. The American Space Agency published a global night light map 2 years ago. In this night light map, the night light brightness of Sanji's house in the subcontinent obviously exceeded that of Dongda. The internet used this to promote that the third brother was much more developed than the East University, especially the third brother was mysteriously confident and thought it should be so. But at this moment, the picture Xiao Yu saw with his own eyes was very different from the satellite night view picture released by Amagalica. In fact, you don't have to go to space to see it yourself to judge that the picture released by Liu Mei is fake. Just one point is enough. It is not difficult to draw a conclusion by comparing their respective power generation. This is just a small episode. After a while, Xiao Yu retracted his gaze and no longer paid attention to the subcontinent. He turned to look up at the vast Milky Way universe. For a moment, he felt a lot of thoughts and sighed. He was sighing at the universe and the power of blue star technology. At this time, Xiao Lan reminded, Master, your current position is exactly in the same orbit as the Xiangong space station, and you and the space station are moving in opposite directions. It is expected that you will meet closely in 10 minutes. The closest relative distance can be within 300 meters. At that time, you may be discovered by the astronauts with the naked eye. Xiao Lan then suggested, to avoid exposure, it is recommended that the Master evade as soon as possible. It is easy for the N-800 nano-weapon to evade the current orbital satellites and radar systems on the Earth. However, if the distance is too close, so close that it can be visible to the naked eye, it is possible that the astronauts inside will see it directly. If someone sees this, it will definitely scare people. Chapter 282, Tease Ame for a bit before going back. Xiao Yu turned his back to the Earth and looked into the depths of space, and the direction of his sight was exactly the direction of the moon. Xiao Lan, how many hours of consumption can the oxygen we carry last? Xiao Yu suddenly asked while looking at the moon in nearly 400,000 kilometers away, and Xiao Lan immediately responded, the remaining 1,700 milliliters of liquid oxygen can support 10 hours of breathing consumption. After a while, Xiao Lan's voice came again, Master, do you want to land on the moon? Xiao Yu, looking at the moon, said with interest, I do have this idea. If I fly over, wouldn't I be the first Chinese to land on the moon? If calculated at the speed of 60 Mach of the N-800 nano-armed, it would only take more than 5 hours to reach the moon, and the oxygen carried could barely support a round trip. At this time, Xiao Yu heard Xiao Lan's voice, Master, If you want to go to the moon, you need to bring more oxygen supplies. The average distance between the Earth and the moon is 380,000 kilometers, the perigee is 360,000 kilometers, and the apogee is 400,000 kilometers. To really fly to the moon, it is not calculated according to the straight line distance. The moon itself is also in relative motion. If we refer to the actual flight distance of change 1, it is about 600,000 kilometers. Xiao Yu heard this, retracted his gaze and smiled. Okay, forget it today, and we'll talk about it later when we have a chance. In fact, even if the oxygen he carried was enough, Xiao Yu didn't plan to run that far. This episode was quickly skipped. Xiao Yu didn't forget Xiao Lan's reminder just now. At this moment, he and the Xiangong space station are in the same orbit, and they are approaching each other at the first cosmic speed. They will touch each other in a few minutes. Xiao Yu didn't stay any longer and flew into the atmosphere immediately. Not long after entering the Kármán line, as he docked in the atmosphere again, the exoskeleton and a combat record on Xiao Yu's body rubbed against the atmosphere again, producing flames and wrapping his whole body. From the perspective of space, it was like a dazzling stream of light. After contacting the atmosphere, the sound had a medium to propagate. The path Xiao Yu flew over was accompanied by bursts of rumbling explosions, which echoed long in the sky. Indian Ocean. A dazzling and shocking stream of light came from the sky, as if it was about to fall into the ocean. However, just as it was about to enter the sea, the dive flight trajectory quickly became a smooth curved trajectory, and then remained parallel to the sea surface and flew at a very low altitude. It was Xiao Yu's incarnation wearing N800 nano armor. In the state of ultra-low altitude flight over the seawater along the way spread and stirred to both sides, and formed a striking white belt along the flight path with the water vapor formed. Wherever the flight passed, it was also accompanied by screams, echoing in the sea and sky for a long time. Anyone who saw this visually impactful scene would be shocked and speechless. Just as Xiao Yu was flying along the sea towards Africa, Xiao Lan suddenly reminded him, "Master, I just intercepted a wireless signal from the Magnesium Army's Lo Sifu aircraft carrier." "Oh? Magnesium has an aircraft carrier in the Indian Ocean?" Xiao Yu was quite surprised. He slowed down immediately after losing contact. After 10 seconds, his flying speed dropped to 0 and he hovered on the sea surface. Looking around, there was an endless ocean with only a coastline, no islands or land. "What's the situation?" Xiao Yu said. According to the intercepted radio information, the Magnesium Army here is discussing how to deal with the blockade of the Red Sea waterway by the Lake Sai armed forces, Xiao Lan replied, and Xiao Yu suddenly realized it when he heard this. He also remembered a piece of news he had seen some time ago, that the Lo Sifu aircraft carrier of America was indeed deployed in the Indian Ocean in the near future. Because Yemen's Houthi brother has blocked the Red Sea route, cutting off Xiao Yu's sea supply, and the European cargo ships passing by, whether they are supporting Xiao Yu with supplies or passing through normally, are greeted with a barrage of hypersonic missiles. Not only cargo ships, but also warships. Even Ameri's warships are doing the same. As long as they dare to come, they will be served with hypersonic missiles. Since hypersonic missiles can be grown in the desert, Houthi brother also picked up these things in the desert, and has been in the limelight since then. The surrounding old irons are envious and secretly admired, because other old irons really dare not play like this. But Houthi brother is a barefoot who is not afraid of wearing shoes, and he will start fighting as soon as he disagrees. Amalika has no way to deal with this brother now, and he can't land to fight a ground war with him. They will hide in the mountains and Gobi to play guerrilla warfare with you. If Ami loses his temper, he will be trapped. Brother Husei has nothing at home. Hypersonic missiles are not made by them, nor can they be made. They picked them up in the desert. Even if Ami wants to send the Air Force to bomb, they can't find any valuable targets after flying around. They can't just bomb a few broken tents. That would be a big loss, and the fuel cost of the plane's flight would not be recovered. Moreover, Brother Husei might take out an anti-aircraft missile to shoot down your plane, which would be fun. Hypersonic missiles can be picked up in the desert. Who knows if Brother Husei picked up an anti-aircraft missile in the desert? Ami sent the Rasifu aircraft carrier over, but did not dare to go deep because they were afraid of being beaten and afraid of being hit by hypersonic missiles. Brother Husei really dared to take action. Xiao Yu asked, "Where exactly is Lao Mei's aircraft carrier?" Xiao Lan responded, "It's at your 11 o'clock direction, about 800 kilometers away. Hearing this, Xiao Yu looked towards the 11 o'clock direction, folded his arms and pondered for a moment, and suddenly said, "Xiao Lan, give me a suggestion. Is there any operation that can not only ensure that the N800 is not exposed, but also scare Lao Mei and make him lose face?" As he said that, Xiao Yu smiled intriguingly. Since I'm here and I found it, it would be unreasonable not to toss a Mei around. Xiao Lan thought deeply for a while and gave a suggestion. The master can mimic the N800 nano-arm exoskeleton suit into the form of a hypersonic missile and reduce its speed. In this way, the magnesium army will not notice the abnormality, and there is a probability of more than 90% that it will be considered a hypersonic missile launched at them by the Lake Sai armed forces. Xiao Yu's eyes lit up immediately. This is a good idea. Let's go and tease a Mei for a while before going back. He did what he said. With a sound of explosion and waves, Xiao Yu disappeared in the sea and headed for the aircraft carrier battle group of a Mei 800 kilometers away. At this time, Xiao Yu was cruising at a speed of 20 Mach, and was flying at an ultra-low altitude along the sea surface. Even if he did not use any stealth means, the radar could not detect it, because the Earth is a curved surface, and flying at an ultra-low altitude can evade radar. It takes less than 2 minutes to reach 800 kilometers away at a speed of 20 Mach for hypersonic cruising. About a minute later, Xiao Lan selected the three-dimensional parameters of a hypersonic weapon of a major country, and the data and its model were projected onto Xiao Yu's front panel. Xiao Yu quickly reduced the flight speed to subsonic speed and further reduced the speed. Immediately afterwards, nanoparticles immediately began to mimic the generation, and the form of the exoskeleton nano-armor began to change dramatically. The appearance of the humanoid exoskeleton armor gradually produced a new physical structure and became the outline of a hypersonic missile. In fact, it was just a hypersonic missile shell that was mimicked outside the exoskeleton nano-armor, wrapping Xiao Yu inside, but people outside saw a hypersonic missile. Chapter 283, Emily, Generous Gift Crab. Nanomimicry generation is still in progress. With the assistance of Xiao Lan, the radar reflection area of the shell of the mimicry-generated hypersonic missile is further compressed. At the same time, the high-temperature plasma trail at the tail makes its infrared characteristics completely consistent with the glider of the real hypersonic missile. In just 10 seconds, the nanomimicry generation is completed. At this time, Xiao Yu becomes a hypersonic anti-ship missile. Without knowing it in advance, no one would have thought that there was a person in this hypersonic missile. At this moment, this hypersonic missile soared to a speed of Mach 12 in 8 seconds and shot towards the aircraft carrier battle group of America. In the northwest of the Indian Ocean, a sea area. America's Rosafu aircraft carrier battle group is here. At this time, this sea area is quite quiet, and there are no big waves. In the past few days, Emily's aircraft carrier fleet has basically been playing hide-and-seek with Husai, because they dare not approach the Red Sea at all, and only dare to wander around the Indian Ocean. The reason why Emily, a big gangster, is so afraid is that Husai has hypersonic anti-ship missiles. It must be said that its deterrent power is still sufficient. The main reason is that Husai is also a group of tigers. If you, Emily, really go over and show off, he really dares to shoot a few. At this moment, an Arleigh-Burke destroyer on the periphery of the aircraft carrier, a non-commissioned officer on the deck of the ship suddenly saw an unidentified flying object appear in the distant sky and fly at an astonishing speed. At first he thought he had seen it wrong, but when he looked again, it was true. He had seen the tail of the flying object before, and he reacted, and was shocked on the spot. Gift crab, he immediately ran wildly on the deck of the ship, picked up a communication device and shouted, "Hypersonic missiles are coming." Hypersonic missiles are detected. A radar operator on the ship immediately cursed. Impossible, the radar didn't detect any signal at all. Where did the missile come from? Then, the soldier yelled in the communicator, "Damn it, I saw it with my eyes. Do you understand what this means?" At the same time, Xiao Yu disguised himself as a hypersonic missile and entered the core area of the aircraft carrier battle group of Amaglica. The people on the ship could see it with their naked eyes, which showed how close the distance was. The prism structure formed by the nanoparticles on the surface refracted the plasma flame into a rainbow halo, showing a standard hypersonic missile tail flame in infrared imaging, and the overall aerodynamic shape was also roughly similar to the hypersonic anti-ship missile of a certain major country. Finally, a maze destroyer sounded the alarm because they had detected the UFO on the radar system. It was so close, but they hadn't discovered it yet. Xiao Yu had to take the initiative to show his face. Activate the Aegis anti-missile system immediately. The commander on the bridge was shocked and sweating. He immediately gave an order, and the tactical plotter immediately projected the target's movement trajectory to the command desk. The anti-aircraft missile was launched from the ship to intercept, but less than 3 seconds after the missile was launched, the radar operator on the ship exclaimed, "Damn it! The target suddenly disappeared and can't be locked." The captain looked out the porthole, and he suddenly turned back and shouted, "I just saw it with my own eyes, and you told me that this damn radar can't detect it." The naked eye did see it, but it did suddenly disappear on the radar. Before they had time to think, an electronic warfare officer suddenly exclaimed, "What's going on? There are multiple F-18 reply signals appearing in the interception airspace. It's our own people." Seeing that the air defense missiles were about to hit our own people, the commander slammed the table and said, "Immediately shut down the missile guidance system." The fire control officers were also busy executing the order. After a while, 3 missiles launched lost their target guidance and fell directly into the sea and exploded. But after a while, they realized that they were fooled and deceived by tactics. There were no one on their side at all. At this time, the target was detected by radar again. Many officers and soldiers on the destroyer even saw it with their naked eyes. The witnesses all changed their faces. "Oh no, its target is us." At this critical moment, it was too late to intercept the air defense missiles. The captain and commander urgently ordered to try to intercept with close-in defense artillery. In a short while, the close-in defense artillery on the destroyer could fire thousands of rounds of ammunition in a minute, spraying frantically and firing ahead of time along the target's trajectory. What? How can it still accelerate? The officers and soldiers on the ship were stunned. If it suddenly accelerated, the calculated lead time would be wrong, and it would be impossible to hit the target. Before they could react, this hypersonic missile whizzed past atop of the destroyer's head, and then the ME officers and soldiers on the ship were stunned again. Not only can it accelerate, but it can also make quick maneuvers and change lanes. How can it be intercepted? No, its real target is the aircraft carrier. At this moment, the ME aircraft carrier battle group was in chaos in an instant, especially its internal radio communications, which were even more messy. The aircraft carrier learned that a hypersonic anti-ship missile broke through the defense line and rushed straight towards it. Suddenly, everyone on the aircraft carrier panicked. The intelligence-sharing data sent from the destroyer showed that this was a hypersonic missile model they had never seen before. That weird maneuverability and terrifying speed reached Mach 15. How to intercept it? Before long, almost everyone on the deck of the aircraft carrier saw with their naked eyes that a hypersonic missile was coming towards them. This scene scared everyone. When it can be seen with the naked eye, it often means that interception is almost impossible. Just when they thought they were going to be hit hard and 100% sure, this hypersonic anti-ship missile whizzed directly over the aircraft carrier, and everyone was stunned. It was really stunned. The whistling and exploding sound, when it passed at high speed, made the heads of the people on the deck of the aircraft carrier buzz. If Xiao Yu lowered the altitude further, someone would definitely be killed on the spot by the impact of the sound wave energy, or be directly blown away by the air wave and swept into the sea, but he didn't want to kill anyone. But the officers and soldiers of the aircraft carrier were almost scared to death, and they didn't know what Xiao Yu was thinking. Many people came to their senses and began to look for cover in a hurry. The aircraft carrier was still very durable and would not be sunk by a hypersonic missile, unless it was hit by a torpedo underwater, which would be fatal. As long as they were not unlucky enough to hit the bullseye, they would not be hit. At this moment, the group of ME soldiers on the aircraft carrier found that the missile did not hit, and suddenly everyone felt like they had survived a disaster. But then, everyone was dumbfounded again. God, that thing seems to have turned around and come back. Halixi. The people on the aircraft carrier suddenly felt like they were facing a great enemy again, and fear was written on their faces. On the other side, Xiao Yu murmured, "Since we are here, it's just a joke like this. Lao Mei doesn't seem to have any actual losses. I always feel that it's a little bit lacking." While muttering in his heart, Xiao Yu was also thinking about whether there was any other work that could be done. It was not difficult for Xiao Yu, who was armed with N-800 equipment at the moment, to sink a destroyer, frigate or something like that. However, it was a bit too much to play like that, so he quickly rejected this idea. Moreover, attacking with N-800 nano-weapons would easily expose them. Long-range attacks used high-temperature plasma rays, which were obviously not made on Earth, and would definitely expose them. Not to mention close combat. Unless the entire fleet was sunk and they stayed in this ocean forever, it would indeed avoid being exposed. However, if this really happened, there would be no way to end it, and it was obviously not possible to do so. At the same time, what Xiao Yu didn't know was that the mentality of all the members of Amei's side was about to collapse, because they found that this hypersonic missile was actually hovering in the air, and it seemed to be going to attack the destroyer for a while, and then it turned around as if it was going to attack the aircraft carrier. The terrible thing was that it just didn't do it, and there was no way to intercept it. It was like a sharp sword hanging over their heads, which could come down and choke them at any time. In fact, Xiao Yu was hovering at this moment to think about how to make Amei feel great pain without ending it. After a while, Xiao Yu thought of a way, and his eyes suddenly lit up. I got it. He did it as soon as he thought of it, without any hesitation. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284, Immediately Retreat 1,500 nautical miles. It was slow. From the time Xiao Yu approached and was discovered by the other party to now, it only took 2 minutes. Amei's people finally realized that the opponent was playing with them, which made them angry and ashamed, but more of them were frightened and terrified. Who knows if the opponent will play with you and suddenly come to you for real. At this moment, Xiao Yu suddenly reduced his speed significantly, which made Amei think that this hypersonic missile should be out of service. Maybe the fuel it carried was running out. But he was even more panicked. Did that mean that the other party had had enough fun and was going to get serious? Amei did not relax his vigilance, but became even more panicked. However, the sudden drop in speed also made Amei feel that the probability of interception increased greatly, so the fleet commander ordered another attempt to intercept. In a moment, a destroyer in the aircraft carrier formation launched 2 anti-aircraft missiles again. Master, we have been locked, Xiaolin issued a reminder at this time. This is the moment we've been waiting for. Xiao Yu was immediately inspired. Xiaolan, immediately use electronic interference to make them lose control of the guidance of the anti-aircraft missiles. At the same time, the 2 anti-aircraft missiles were about to catch up with Xiao Yu. Amei's people were about to successfully intercept them, and they were even excited. As a result, something happened that made them dumbfounded. They found that the hypersonic missile suddenly accelerated again. WTF? How is this possible? This scene made Amei's people confused again. They definitely didn't expect that. Before they could react, they were immediately subjected to electronic interference and lost the guidance of the anti-aircraft missiles. At the same time, Xiao Yu flew towards the aircraft carrier again, and there were 2 anti-aircraft missiles chasing him behind him. When no one reacted, Xiao Yu almost flew past the deck of the aircraft carrier. The naked eye didn't react at all and it flashed by. At the lowest point, it was less than 5 meters away from the deck. The violent air waves generated along the way caused a large displacement of several carrier-based aircraft parked on the deck. These were big guys calculated by tons. But at this moment, the people on the deck had already hidden, otherwise they would either die from the impact of the air wave or be swept into the air and fall into the sea. Xiao Yu was like a stream of light, passing over the deck of the aircraft carrier at a very low altitude, and his flight trajectory drew a gorgeous curved trajectory, and suddenly flew away. The 2 anti-aircraft missiles behind him inevitably hit the deck of the aircraft carrier at this time. Amei, who had lost guidance and control, could only watch helplessly. In an instant, a loud and violent explosion sounded, and the deck of the aircraft carrier instantly burst into flames. The carrier-based aircraft parked on the deck, including the FA-18EF Super Hornet fighter, AN-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft, E-2D Advanced Hawkeye early warning aircraft, etc., suffered a series of explosions. It is estimated that 23 carrier-based aircraft were destroyed, some were directly overturned by the shock wave and fell into the sea, and some were splashed by the explosion of the fuselage fragments and were also seriously damaged. At this moment, the commander on the aircraft carrier was heartbroken when he saw the scene of being hit by friendly missiles. 1/3 of the carrier-based aircraft of the entire aircraft carrier were directly reimbursed. Although the aircraft carrier was not sunk and the main structure was not fatally damaged, The remaining aircraft could not take off on the runway, which meant that the aircraft carrier had actually lost its combat capability at this moment. It must return to the port for repairs. With AMI's current efficiency, it would be extremely efficient for them to be able to leave the port in 5 years. What made AMI's nightmares even more was that the weird hypersonic missile flew back again. When it flew over a frigate at a high speed, everyone on the ship was scared to death. Damn it, how could Husai have such an advanced hypersonic missile? What is the intelligence department for? Why don't we know anything about this? The fleet commander was shocked and angry at this moment, obviously convinced that this was the hypersonic missile launched by Brother Husai at them. After all, he was facing Brother Husai at the moment, and Brother Husai was the only one who could have hypersonic missiles in this area. Sir, the target is locked. Do you want to intercept again? No, pass my order, no one is allowed to intercept. Evacuate, retreat 1,500 nautical miles immediately. Immediately, the fleet commander of AMI no longer dared to order an interception. Ignoring this hypersonic missile, it can only cause damage once at most. If he continued to try to intercept it, if the opponent used the same trick again and was beaten by friendly forces again, the loss would only be greater. It would be better to let it find a target to bomb, so as to avoid multiple casualties. Most importantly, the fleet commander determined that his position information had been exposed because he had just encountered electronic warfare. This made him seriously suspect that Dongda's 055 destroyer might be in the nearby waters, and they have not yet found where 055 is. Because in recent years, Dongda's ships have also been running all over the world, and they have also created a feed of a 055 destroyer chasing an aircraft carrier formation of AMI alone. It is not surprising that the commander has such doubts, because this is indeed beyond their cognition. The huge information gap makes them never think that the hypersonic missile itself has electronic warfare capabilities, which is too extravagant. But it was indeed interfered by electronic warfare, which is also an objective fact, so they suspect that there are other things hidden in the dark nearby that have not been discovered by them. Originally, AMI was the only one in the world in the field of electronic warfare, but now it is different from the past. Dongda has long surpassed AMI in this field, and has formed a generational advantage. In today's world, there is only one existence on this planet that can make Liao Mei suffer a big loss in the field of electronic warfare. This made him suspect that Dongda might be secretly covering up and instructing Husei. They also knew that Dongda's 055 destroyer had excellent stealth performance, so it was not impossible that the radar did not detect it. In the past, AMI and his younger brothers had encountered similar things when they were doing exercises. The radar did not detect Dongda's ship, but it was seen with the naked eye. It was not that AMI's people had superpowers, but it was almost in his face, but the radar did not detect it. At this moment, AMI's aircraft carrier fleet retreated at full speed without looking back, directly ignoring the hypersonic missiles in the air, and no longer trying to intercept them, as if you could just hit any target you didn't like. It should be said that when he suspected that it might be Dongda, the fleet commander was secretly relieved. This was one of the reasons why he ordered not to use anti-aircraft missiles for interception. Because Dongda is a martial arts person, he must know the importance and can handle the situation well. It is unlikely that he will really sink a ship directly. After all, the situation has not reached this intensity. Moreover, when inducing the anti-aircraft missiles to bomb the carrier-based aircraft on the deck of the aircraft carrier, they specially chose an area where there were no people. This is the best embodiment of knowing the severity of the attack and knowing the degree of measure. Unlike the barefoot Husai brother, in AMI's eyes, he is a reckless man without martial ethics, and he does not know how to use caution when he attacks. At this time, Xiao Yu saw that AMI's entire aircraft carrier battle group was retreating at full speed. He did not chase after them, but turned directly and flew away in the opposite direction. Obviously, they planned to stop here. It would be inappropriate to continue chasing them to play around, which would make this hypersonic missile seem too black technology. AMI's retreat must have greatly disrupted their action deployment plan in this area, and tragically rode off more than 20 carrier-based aircraft. As a result, the aircraft carrier had to be grounded for several years for maintenance. During this period, it could not form combat effectiveness, which was enough to make Liao Mei feel very painful. Chapter 285, Carrying a Sharp Weapon, the desire to kill arises naturally. The straight line distance between the two sides was thousands of kilometers, and Xiao Yu began to slow down. The nano-mimicry appearance of the hypersonic missile also returned to the appearance of nano-armor. Xiao Yu was suspended above the sea. He turned and looked in the direction of Amai's aircraft carrier battle and retreated in a panic. Thinking back to the situation just now, Lao Mei suffered such a big setback, and couldn't help but smile knowingly. It was really fun to play with Amai this time, but Xiao Yu was also quite touched and even quite shocked. Just relying on a set of N-800 nano-weapons, he could play with an aircraft carrier fleet by himself. With just a little move, the other side reimbursed more than 20 carrier-based aircraft. There were only 60 carrier-based aircraft on the aircraft carrier, and the direct loss was more than one-third. If Xiao Yu really wanted this fleet to stay in the Indian Ocean, he could do it by himself. The N-800 nano-armed weapons in the Blue Star world have raised the power of individuals to such a terrifying height. With the blessing of this black technology, Xiao Yu can be called a Superman on Earth, and there is no other N-800 nano-armed warrior to check and balance him. At this moment, Xiao Yu muttered in thought, with a sharp weapon, the desire to kill arises naturally. When a person has powerful abilities and unchecked power, he often abuses it unconsciously, intentionally or unintentionally. It can be said that if most people have N-800 nano-armed weapons, they may be like Superman on the first day to uphold justice and eliminate evil. On the second day, when they find that even if they help some people, they will scold you, they gradually become the motherland in the Black Robe Patrol, directly eliminating those who don't like them. The stronger they are, the more they regress in moral level. At this moment, Xiao Yu is very calm and sober. If capital can alienate people, this powerful force can also alienate people, and even more. Xiao Yu treated the power he possessed with an attitude of carrying a sharp weapon, being cautious and careful, in order to avoid being alienated by it. After personally experiencing the power of the N-800 nano-armament, Xiao Yu was shocked and had a potential sense of crisis. This sense of crisis made him want to raise the overall technological level of the Earth as soon as possible. Because he realized the possibility, although the probability was very low. If one day in the future, the two worlds of Blue Star and Earth were connected for some reason, and each knew the existence of the other. With the nature of the rulers of the Blue Star world who exploit all living beings, if they knew the existence of the Earth and that it was so backward and weak compared to the Blue Star civilization, they would inevitably covet and invade without hesitation. The huge power gap between the two worlds is the source of Xiao Yu's sense of crisis. If the human civilization of the Earth faces the invasion of the human civilization of the Blue Star, it will be crushed by absolute power. This kind of crushing is even more exaggerated than the industrial civilization against the agricultural civilization. There is no possibility of winning at all. Any strategic and tactical tactics are futile under this kind of absolute power. Fortunately, I can completely control the opening and closing of the teleportation stargate. Xiao Yu felt relieved when he thought of this. However, the best situation is obviously to close the gap in strength between the two world civilizations. If the overall strength of the Earth civilization is not weaker than that of the Blue Star civilization, even if the two sides know each other's existence, the Earth civilization can deal with it calmly. On the other hand, the Blue Star civilization will not dare to invade easily. In the final analysis, it is safest to let the technological level of the Earth civilization catch up with the Blue Star world. Only when the two sides are evenly matched can stability and peace be achieved. The Earth itself is the best example of this. Under the mutual nuclear deterrence, several major countries in the world have various open and secret struggles, but they have maintained bottom-line restraints so far. To make the overall technological level of the Earth catch up with the Blue Star world quickly, it must be necessary to use the information gap between the two worlds to tinker with the technology of the Blue Star world. This is the fastest shortcut. However, even with such a shortcut, it is not possible to close the huge technological gap between the two worlds in a short time. Xiao Yu had a long-term sense of crisis, but it was not to the point where the sky was falling. As long as the teleportation star ring was in his hands, he would have the initiative and would have enough time for his hometown Earth to catch up. Finally, Xiao Yu put away his thoughts and stopped lingering, preparing to go home. Bang! With the sound of a sonic boom, Xiao Yu, who was suspended on the sea, broke through the speed of sound and suddenly turned into a stream of light, shooting towards the African continent. When the N-800 equipment production line is ready and I have made the N-800 myself, I have to let my real body step on the continents of the world and light up more coordinates. At this moment, Xiao Yu, who had already arrived over the African continent at a high speed, said to himself. He can only open the teleportation stargate on the African continent now. This was when he went to Africa in person to light up the coordinates when he was dealing in gold a few years ago. The teleportation star ring is tied to Xiao Yu's real body and cannot be taken off. Otherwise, if the substitute takes the teleportation star ring to the continents to check out the coordinates, he can also light up the coordinates. Now it is very difficult for Xiao Yu's real body to go abroad. The relevant national authorities will most likely not approve it. Xiao Yu himself does not want to put his real body in danger. Although there is the N-800 nano-armed weapon assisted by the Red Tide, he does not want to use his real body for the sake of safety. In this way, if you want your real body to go to various continents in the world to check out the locations, you can only wait until you make N-800, and then you can let your real body armed with N-800 go to check out the locations quietly. Xiao Yu is not in a hurry about this matter. The complete set of N-800 technology and equipment production line are available. You only need to wait for the production line to be built and then it can be produced. If there is really something important, now there is an incarnation to play a role. Lin's House City, underground secret base. The teleportation stargate opened in a room inside the base. Xiao Yu's incarnation stepped through the stargate. The feeling he felt from this test experience was just one word: cool. Although it was conducted with an incarnation, Xiao Yu's real body also felt the same way. After a while, Xiao Yu controlled the avatar to guide the nanoparticles in its body out, and then the avatar went into hibernation. The nanoparticles were put back into the original container and placed in this base. Xiao Yu would either use this set of N-800 nano-armaments for the avatar, or leave it here. The real body must be made by himself in the future. Xiao Yu does not have much pressure on his personal life safety now. After all, he has the black technology of the avatar. When he really needs to take risks, he can let the avatar go, and people outside will never find out that it is a clone. On the other side, a Maislo Sifu aircraft carrier fleet retreated 1,500 nautical miles in one breath, which means it ran nearly 2,800 kilometers away from the scene of the incident, and only then did they feel a little safe. Xiao Yu's play really scared May out of his wits. He felt ashamed and still in shock for a long time. After the initial assessment, the economic loss of May this time alone was as high as tens of billions of dollars, not to mention the subsequent maintenance costs of the aircraft carrier. May was crying in pain privately, but she dared not make it public. What a shame. The most important thing is that May lost the combat power of an aircraft carrier. Although they claim to have 11 super aircraft carriers, they are basically lying in the port, either for maintenance or repair and replenishment. There are only a few that can be deployed immediately, and most of them are directly or indirectly tied down in the Asia-Pacific region by the East China University. There is no way. The current comprehensive strength of the East China University is there. May has deployed almost two-thirds of its naval forces in the Asia-Pacific region, and there is no confidence in winning. The current situation is that as long as the East China University does not move, May's main force dare not move. They dare not really fight, and they cannot withdraw, which in fact has tied down May's main force at sea, resulting in them not having too much additional force to support other regions. The Rossif aircraft carrier suffered a big setback this time, which actually had a huge impact on May. The economic loss was small, but the further passiveness in the overall situation was great. Originally, it was going to come to rescue Xiao Yu, at least to strengthen its momentum. Now, this plan has completely fallen through. The Pentagon is busy with this matter at the moment, and is conducting an emergency review and analysis of this emergency. Chapter 286, This world is just a makeshift team. Pentagon. In a secret room, 7 or 8 people sat at an oval conference table, and the conference screen was projected to show the sand table information of the Indo-Pacific incident that happened not long ago. When the screen played the shot of the damaged deck of the USS Rosenberg, the Afghan defense minister who was attending the meeting froze the screen at the moment when the carrier-based aircraft exploded in succession. Everyone, this is the most shameful and major military defeat of our American Navy since this Henzhou incident. His voice was like rusty gears, and his face was extremely ugly. He looked around and said, "But what's more terrifying is that we still know nothing about this weapon used by the opponent." After a while, an analyst named Wilson said, "I compared all the known hypersonic missile databases in the world. The maneuvering trajectory and aerodynamic layout of this target are nearly 90% similar to those of the Eastern DF-17, but the speed is 30% faster than the terminal speed of the DF-17. The terminal speed of the DF-17 can reach Mach 20 at the fastest, which is 30% faster than this, that is, Mach 26. Xiao Yu did accelerate for a period of time, reaching more than Mach 25. At this time, Wilson called up the ballistic simulation screen and said, "What's more amazing is the way it suddenly disappeared at the end, and the sudden maneuvering and speed change during the period. Our technicians can't figure out how they did it." Wilson swallowed his saliva and added, "An electronic interference induction, and then tactical deception. This is definitely not something that a missile can do." As soon as this was said, a lieutenant general named Clark suddenly said, "So, what you mean is this some kind of joint coordinated strike?" The other question is more critical. "This is more like some kind of test behavior." Wilson analyzed and called up the electronic data and continued, "From the damage to the aircraft carrier, it is obvious that it deliberately avoided the nuclear reactor compartment and ammunition depot, and also avoided the manned area, which shows that the opponent is controlling casualties." Wilson's eyes swept across the people in the conference room. They may be showing their strength, or they may be testing the actual combat effect of their new weapon through the Lake Sai hand, and we have become the target of the test, and it has also disrupted our deployment. It can be said that they are killing two birds with one stone, Lieutenant General Clark said with a confident look on his face. This incident is directly related to the Lakers, but there must be another expert behind it, and the Lakers' style is not like this. The defense minister of Amai who was attending the meeting suddenly asked, in addition to Dongfang, "Is it possible that this weapon came from Ellis?" Analyst Wilson immediately shook his head and said, "Impossible. Although Ellis has also mastered the technology of hypersonic missiles, it is impossible to be so advanced. Hypersonic missiles are advanced weapons that Leomai has not yet developed by himself, and he has not figured it out yet. At present, only 2 players in the world have successfully lit up this technology. Big Goose is one of them. There are only 2 players in total. Since Big Goose is ruled out, the answer is self-evident. And there is another piece of evidence, that is, this incident is obviously not the reckless style of the Lakers' brother. And it is also coordinated with electronic warfare. No matter how you look at it, it feels like the taste of the Rabbit University of the East. All signs point to one answer. Although no evidence has been found to prove it, Amai is now determined that it is definitely related to the East. At this time, another important military official of Amai suddenly stood up, glanced at everyone and said, "I must remind you of a more far-reaching strategic impact. If this Indo-Pacific incident is their new means of deterrence, then our military presence in the entire Indo-Pacific will face extremely serious challenges." Xiao Yu just wanted to play a trick on Amai in accordance with the ancestral tradition of "since I'm here, that's all." But from Amai's perspective, it's not that simple. In their view, this is simply a horror story. This incident has a huge impact and shock on the Amai army. Reevaluate the global military deployment. From now on, all aircraft carrier battle groups outside must maintain a defense depth of at least 500 nautical miles. The defense minister of Magnesium, who was attending the meeting, took a deep breath and turned to the military advisor sitting next to him. "Thompson, what do you think of this?" Thompson answered neatly, "We need to speed up the development of the 6th-generation fighter." This made the defense minister really uncomfortable, because Magnesium now encountered a very embarrassing problem. The J-36 Shenlong fighter of Dongda University was born. Magnesium was under great pressure and urgency and was determined to vigorously develop the 6th-generation aircraft. As a result, not long after opening the new folder, Dongda came up with an export control list. Key materials such as antimony, germanium, room-temperature superconductors, and graphene batteries that are indispensable for the 6th-generation aircraft have strangled magnesium's neck. As long as the relevant upstream manufacturers of Dongda do not supply, Magnesium will not be able to find a second alternative on this planet. The progress of the development of the 6th-generation aircraft has been seriously hindered by Dongda's export control list. The development personnel have been cut off, and Dongda's stranglehold is even worse. However, after experiencing this sudden incident in the Indian Ocean, Amai has become more determined in a principle, that is, when playing games with Dongda, only verbal fighting can be carried out, not fighting with force, and in the future, we must do our best to avoid fighting with force. It's not that Amai doesn't want to fight with force. As long as fighting with force can win, he won't think of playing verbal fighting. He really found that fighting with force can't win at all. The next day, the verbal fight came immediately. The day after the incident, Aimee called Dongda privately on a dedicated line, and asked angrily, "How could you give such a dangerous thing to that reckless man in Lake Sai? Dongda?" Aimee's anxious posture made Dongda look confused, and he felt inexplicable. He couldn't figure out whether Aimee had taken the wrong medicine or was having a fit, but he immediately thought that Aimee was playing the old trick of seeking the enemy in the void, so he quickly fought back. Seeing that Dongda didn't admit it at all, Aimee said, "I knew you would do this. You are playing the game of pretending to be ignorant while knowing the truth." But Aimee didn't have any good solution, because there was no evidence. This time, he suffered such a big setback that he couldn't even make up for it. Aimee could only swallow this loss unwillingly, and secretly gnashed his teeth in anger. However, Aimee's abnormal behavior attracted Dongda's attention, because he found that the other party seemed to be really angry this time. It didn't look like acting, or it was too much like acting this time. In order to find out the situation, Dongda went back to reconcile the accounts, and wanted to know what happened. So he asked Day what happened in private. Day said with a confused face, "I don't know." Then Day turned around and asked Yiling. Yiling also said with a confused face, "I don't know." Then he went to ask Husai brother. Finally, Husai was also confused and said, "I don't know." "Oh, you mean hypersonic missiles? We have used them recently, and more than once. This big rocket is very useful, but I only ignited it. I don't know whether it hit the target or not." For a while, this matter became a mystery, and everyone was confused. The main point is that this world is a makeshift team. However, several big brothers were very satisfied with Husai. Although they are still confused, at least the result pointed out that it was Husai who made Aimee suffer a big setback this time. Although I was confused myself, it must be a good thing that everyone likes to see Aimee suffer a big setback. Chapter 287, Husai. Yes, I did it. 3 days have passed. Finally, new news broke out. The first to break the news was the Australian media. It must be said that the Australian media has something. Some of the not-so-glorious things about the United States were also broken by Australia. According to the media, the USS Rossif, an aircraft carrier battle group deployed by the United States in the Indian Ocean, was suspected to have been hit by an unknown advanced weapon used by the Lake Sai during its mission, losing a large number of carrier-based aircraft and seriously damaging the aircraft carrier deck. As soon as this news came out, it immediately attracted great attention worldwide. Especially in China, it caused a lot of discussion. If the Australian media broke the news, then the United States suffered a heavy loss this time. After the news broke out, the big brothers behind Brother Lake Sai were happy. Good guy, brother is really good. He has achieved such fruitful results without making any noise. No wonder the old man was so anxious. Not long after the Australian media broke the news, the United States immediately asked the captain of the Rossif aircraft carrier to come out to clarify and denied it 3 times in a row. As a result, a few hours later, the video was found out by the powerful netizens around the world that it was released in March. Now it's interesting. The more you describe it, the more it gets black and white. In the international community, more and more information is leaking out, and it is difficult to distinguish the true from the false, making this matter more and more confusing. The movements of the Aimee aircraft carrier are also being watched by the whole world, but Aimee seems to be trapped in a self-proving trap. If the Aimee aircraft carrier cannot release its full picture, then for people in the international community, it is hit. If it starts to move, it is because it has to avoid being attacked. If the aircraft carrier does not move, it is because the engine is hit by the lake and cannot move. The next day, Husai brother quickly rushed to the global news hot search, because just this afternoon, Husai brother's spokesperson said on social media that they have recently launched a series of high-quality military operations and announced that they are responsible for the incident. Translation is, yes, it was me who did it. When making a statement, the brother further declared that if there is an opportunity, he will continue to attack the Magnesium Navy aircraft carrier battle group, and even further increase his strike force. As soon as the news came out, it immediately caused a global sensation. Husai's brother also rushed to the global hot search and made the front page headlines of major media. In fact, Husai's brother was not sure whether it was his own hypersonic missile that hit him, but no one stood up to take the blame, and the brother decisively stepped forward to admit it. Moreover, in the current situation, even if Husai's brother stood up and said that it was not him, I am afraid that the whole world would not believe it and determine that it was you, brother, who did it, Because only you dare to do such a thing. There are so many old friends in the Middle East, and only you dare to confront the big gangster Lau Mei. No one else dares. Who else can it be if not you? It's interesting, Xiao Yu has also been consciously paying attention to the news these days. Hu Xi's brother's operation rushed to the global news headlines, and he also received the news on the same day. He was amused on the spot. Xiao Yu thought that Mei would definitely suspect Hu Xi's brother, but he really didn't expect Hu Xi's brother to take the initiative to jump out and take the responsibility for this matter and admit that he did it. Since Hu Xi has already admitted the matter, it is unlikely that anyone can help. It is just like if Duan's Hengchen took the lead and recognized Suzu as his son. No matter how much the abbot tried to explain, no one would believe it and would conclude that Suzu was Duan's son. What is this called? This is called word of mouth. The old friends around him looked at Hu Xi with new eyes again and admired him very much. Not only was he so brave, but he was also able to make the big gangster Mei suffer such a big loss. The old friends were secretly envious because the old brother did something they only dared to think about in their hearts but never dared to do. Hu Xi has definitely made a big splash this time, and has made a strong presence in the world. His reputation and popularity have also soared. Xiao Yu, who saw this news, must be happy to hear it. As these news spread to China one after another, they also caused heated discussions among countless netizens. Fuck, is Hu Xi so brave? The little Houthis can do such a great thing and dare to compete with the old magnesium. I really admire them. The Slippers army is so powerful. This spirit of not admitting defeat is the most precious thing in the world today. This is a real man, a real fighter. Awesome. The regular army dare not provoke, but a group of Slippers army fought so powerfully. Apart from anything else, this courage is really unmatched. Brother Husei is really awesome. The old magnesium's aircraft carriers have been rampant in the Middle East for so many years. Brother Husei dared to fight. It undoubtedly broke the iron curtain of the old magnesium's military deterrence. The situation is about to change. Brother Husei is a bit dangerous. I feel that magnesium will take revenge sooner or later. Old Mei is still too young to realize the seriousness of the problem. He even posted a photo at this time to clarify that the aircraft carrier was not hit. It seems that Old Mei does not know the illusion of Zhang Xuanggong shot the Zhou Emperor with an arrow, nor does he understand that the arrow shot by Zhang Xuanggong at the Zhou Emperor was not to kill the Zhou Emperor, but to shoot at the sacred and inviolable majesty of the Emperor. Indeed, many times, symbolic attacks are not intended to cause actual huge damage, but to declare to the world, this power can be challenged. It's really better if I'm on top. The correct operation of Old Mei at this time is not to post a stupid move such as clarification, but to fight back with an iron fist to maintain his own majesty. However, it should be said that Old Mei's stupidity is also welcome. Domestic netizens all look at Tusagi brother with new eyes, saying that the brother is really fierce. He hit cargo ships and frigates before, and now he even dares to hit aircraft carriers. But at the same time, netizens think that Mei's response is extremely stupid and shook their heads after seeing it. Everyone thought of the historical story of Duke Zhuang of Zheng shooting the Emperor of Zhou thousands of years ago. Whether the shot was successful or not is no longer important. Those who are willing to believe that it was successful can believe that it was successful, and those who are willing to believe that it was not successful can also believe that it was not successful. However, Mei's sacred and inviolable dignity suffered a heavy blow at this moment. His prestige in the international community has plummeted, and his dignity has been swept away. This undoubtedly makes people in the world feel that Mei's dignity has been challenged and strongly impacted. As a result, Mei did not take a thunderous counterattack, but instead posted a picture to clarify. A few hours after the incident, it was revealed that it was a few months ago. It can only be said that a country established by pirates has no real cultural heritage after all. Otherwise Mei should be able to understand that it is not important whether it is successful or not, and it is not important whether it is clear or not. What is important is how to re-establish his authority in this world. Otherwise, Mei will be attacked by the fearless armed forces wherever he goes in the future. Will he be able to take care of it at that time? Brother Husai did such a thing, and it attracted the attention of the whole world. Mei thought that this matter could not be concealed for too long, because the aircraft carrier had to be repaired, and the repairs had to be funded. So 2 days later, Mei responded again. However, the angle of this response was also tricky. Mei brazenly boasted about this matter. Although our aircraft carrier was hit and we lost a lot of carrier-based aircraft, We did not cause any casualties. Not only was he not ashamed, Aimei gave the global spectators a feeling that he was quite good about himself. Obviously, he was beaten and deflated, and people who didn't know thought that Aimei was numb. This operation even deceived himself, and also shocked all the spectators. But then again, this operation is very consistent with Aimei's style. Chapter 288, Issues on the Commercialization of Humanoid Robots. Brother Husai took over this matter. Xiao Yu was relieved. With Brother Husai's current reputation, the whole world believed what they had admitted, and no one could overturn the case. Xiao Yu no longer paid attention to this matter. He returned to Earth and experienced the power of an 800 nano-arms for the first time. He did not forget that Yan Lingjin and Prism Company were still helping him purchase goods in the Blue Star world. 2 days later, Xiao Yu came to the Blue Star world again and stayed here for half a month, waiting for the purchased goods to arrive. Because there is a 500-fold difference in the speed of time between the two worlds, Xiao Yu cannot wait on the Earth, otherwise he will stay on Earth for a year, and not even a day will pass on the Blue Star. These things do not need Xiao Yu to come forward to solve them personally now. Luo Guanqi and Yan Lingjin, who are in charge of Prism Company, will help him. He only needs to wait for the results, just like a half-month vacation in the Blue Star world, and accompany Yan Lingjin to live a life of two people. Villa residence in Fenquin City, Blue Star. Today is the 17th day since Xiao Yu came to the Blue Star world again. It's almost time. The goods you want have been obtained through the company's procurement channels. Yan Lingjin, who came back from Prism Company, changed his work clothes into home clothes, sat down next to Xiao Yu, and opened a holographic screen panel and pushed it in front of him. The holographic panel showed the purchased items. Yan Lingjin added, "Everything will be in place tomorrow. You can transfer the goods at any time." Xiao Yu's main target this time is room temperature superconducting materials, followed by graphene materials. 30,000 tons of room temperature superconducting materials were purchased, and 100,000 tons of graphene materials were purchased. Xiao Yu looked at the information panel and nodded with satisfaction. The amount of purchased from the Blue Star world this time is enough to cope with the production capacity of the Earth for several years. This year, Xiao Yu reported a production capacity of 800 to 1,000 tons for room temperature superconducting materials, and planned to double the production in 2 years. Based on the base of 1,000 tons, 30,000 tons is enough for 10 years of production capacity. However, plans are fixed. Xiao Yu will definitely not really take 10 years to produce only 30,000 tons of room temperature superconducting materials. That would be too slow. This is not a big problem. He can flexibly adjust and change it at that time. The initial production capacity reported is not much. Xiao Yu did this to leave himself enough room. If he reported too much, it would be difficult to do subtraction at that time. If he reported less, it would be very simple for Xiao Yu to do addition at that time. He just needed to increase the purchase volume from the Blue Star world. The relative time flow rate difference between the two worlds also gave him enough time to prepare. Finally, Xiao Yu closed the information panel, turned his head to look at Yan Lingjin and said, "Leave the rest of the things to me, you just focus on your organization's things." Yan Lingjin nodded, got up leisurely and went to the bathroom. After taking a few steps, she suddenly turned around and looked at Xiao Yu and said with a smile, "Give it to me later." Xiao Yu looked at her and smiled, "No need to wait. You can give it to me now, while you wash." Hearing this, Yan Lingjin's delicate face was smiling and charming, and she also became aroused, and couldn't help urging, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up." Xiao Yu didn't waste any time, he immediately got up and greeted her. He has paid a lot of public rain in the past half month, and Yan Lingjin has also practiced his proficiency. At this moment, Xiao Yu came to Yan Lingjin and put his arm around her slender waist, and couldn't help but sigh, I really didn't expect your needs to be so strong. If this goes on, I will soon become your medicine dregs. I feel like I will live less than 100 years. Yan Lingjin covered her mouth and laughed, rolled her eyes at him unhappily, and then said calmly, "What's the big deal? The current medical technology level is so advanced. Just replace what's broken. And even if it's completely broken, you can transplant a cloned body and memory to it, and it will be full of blood again." What she said made Xiao Yu speechless for a while. The level of life science in the Blue Star world was so abnormal that she was so fearless that she could take as much as she wanted. Xiao Yu glanced at Yan Lingjin and said fiercely, "See how I teach you a lesson." The next day, Xiao Yu transported the purchased goods back to Earth. This matter had to be done by himself, and no one could help, including Yan Lingjun. Fortunately, Yan Lingjun was extremely considerate and tolerant of Xiao Yu in this matter and absolutely trusted him. As long as Xiao Yu didn't say anything, she wouldn't ask, which saved Xiao Yu a lot of trouble. In Xiao Yu's eyes today, Yan Lingjun is an impeccable and virtuous wife, but the demand is too strong. But this is not a bad thing. Xiao Yu himself actually enjoys it and enjoys it. The current medical technology and life sciences in the Blue Star world also made him have nothing to worry about, and he was not afraid of damaging his body. Just as Yan Lingjun said, if you change where you are broken, your whole body will collapse. If you change a body memory transplant and it is full of blood again, then you must be comfortable. After Xiao Yu got the goods to Earth, he lingered with Yan Lingjun for several days before returning to Earth. After returning to Earth, Xiao Yu focused on the spirit mirror technology in the following days. The next technology to be lit up was to get the exoskeleton armed power armor that the army was looking forward to. However, before taking out the exoskeleton armed power armor, it is necessary to get the humanoid robot as a transition as planned, as the pre-technology of the power armor. It was July. Lingjing Technology Headquarters, Chairman's Office. Come in, Xiao Yu answered casually when he heard the knock on the door. He looked up and saw that it was his assistant Yunshu. She walked slowly towards him. Xiao Yu smiled and said, "What's up?" Yunshu came to Xiao Yu and asked, "The humanoid robot project is going very well. What do you plan to do about commercialization?" Hearing this, Xiao Yu withdrew his gaze and thought, the commercialization issue is indeed a bit of a headache. I haven't made up my mind yet. For humanoid robot products, the ultimate form is of course like Vita's industrial group in the Blue Star world, launching bionic products like the Robot Beauty Housekeeper number 18. The main function is to play the role of housekeeper and assistant, helping users take care of people, babysitters, assisting users at work, etc. However, the products in the early stage cannot be so advanced all at once. It is more reasonable to iterate several generations of products for transition. What bothered Xiao Yu was that another major application scenario of humanoid robot products was to engage in industrial production, especially labor-intensive industries, but he did not intend to apply it in this direction so quickly, and the national level would also be concerned about its negative impact, so the probability of releasing it in the short term was not high. Because this would cause a large number of people to lose their jobs, although this could greatly improve productivity and was an inevitable development, it would definitely be wrong to reject the progress of productivity, so the time window was very important, and the timing was very important. The current time node is definitely inappropriate, causing a large number of people to lose their jobs, and failing to properly deal with these people, which means that the timing is not right yet. After a while, Yunshu looked at Xiao Yu and said, "Have you ever considered commercializing it in the direction of sex products? Combining humanoid robots with physical dolls, and then giving them intelligence to become AI companions, such products are unparalleled in competitiveness, and the market prospects are definitely beyond words." Chapter 289, Yunshu's Request. When Xiao Yu heard her words, he was stunned on the spot, and immediately looked up at the beautiful assistant with a surprised expression. At this time, Yunshu was still analyzing by herself, although sex toys are a niche track and the market size is not large, if they are empowered by advanced technology, the market size can be increased exponentially. Xiao Yu, who had retracted his gaze and pondered for a moment. After Yunshu finished speaking, he slowly said, "It's not that I haven't thought of the sex toys track. In fact, I thought of this track at the first time. Putting aside other things, you are right. If this industry is empowered by Lingjing Technology's humanoid robot software and hardware technology, it can be said that it has given souls to dolls and dolls, which will definitely form a dimensionality reduction attack on those traditional old companies in the industry, especially those small companies." However, Xiao Yu suddenly changed the subject and looked at the beautiful assistant again. "It's fine to put aside other things, but there are some things that can't be put aside and discussed." Yunshu looked at him and asked in confusion, "What?" Xiao Yu spread his hands and then took them back, as if he was organizing his words. After a moment, he said, "This matter, how should I put it? In short, there is no problem for others to do this business, but it is more or less inappropriate for our company to do it." At this point, Xiao Yu added, "You know, our company is now a well-known high-tech giant. The National Development and Reform Commission often helps promote it. It is a real face. You said that we are going to make this kind of product. It is really a bit unbecoming. It gives people a sense that it is not worthy of being in a high-end place." Hearing this, Yunshu replied without hesitation, "I think this is easy to solve. Can't we just not make terminal products ourselves? We don't need to use our brand. Our company will be an upstream supplier, provide technical support, choose a reliable terminal manufacturer to cooperate, and let the company build a brand and make terminal products that directly face consumers." When Xiao Yu heard Yunshu's suggestion, he couldn't help but nodded. "We can be an upstream supplier, and we don't need Lingjing technology for the brand. This is fine." After a moment, he looked at the beautiful assistant and asked curiously and puzzledly, "Wait a minute, you are the chief financial officer of a company, and this doesn't seem to be your responsibility. Why are you suddenly so concerned about the commercialization of the company's humanoid robot business, and you also asked me to develop erotic products?" Xiao Yu reacted. He was very curious why Yunshu would take the initiative to tell him these things. Yunshu's eyes moved, and she suddenly smiled curtly at Xiao Yu. She walked slowly to sit next to him, holding his arms with both hands, and said with a sweet smile, "I have a cousin named Yun Rulan. She came to Lingzhou to find me a few days ago and wanted to ask me for a favor. When my family was in financial difficulties before, Sister Lan took good care of me. She came to me this time and I was embarrassed to refuse." Hearing this, Xiao Yu asked curiously, "What does this have to do with the commercialization of humanoid robots you mentioned?" But the next moment, Xiao Yu thought for a while and asked, "Could it be that your cousin is in the business of sex toys and wants to use your connections to get some resources from Lingjing technology?" Yunshu next to her nodded and explained frankly, "Well, her husband is Zhou Chenggang, the founder of Likun Technology, which was established 3 years earlier than Lingjing Technology. This company is engaged in sex toys and was successfully listed on the A-share Beijing Stock Exchange last year. The company is currently developing quite well, its performance is growing steadily, and its products have also been recognized by the market." Yunshu said in an orderly manner, "Zhou Chenggang is a very ambitious person. In recent years, he has wanted the company's products to embrace AI technology, but he does not have the technical strength. He wants to obtain technical support from Lingjing Technology but has no channels or connections, so he asked my cousin to come to me." Xiao Yu suddenly realized and couldn't help laughing, "So that's the case. I was wondering why you suddenly talked to me about these things. It turns out that your relatives have something to ask of you and are asking you for help." Yunshu looked back at Xiao Yu and smiled. "It's good to keep money in the family. I owe my cousin a favor and I can't refuse, so I have to talk to you." But he then added, "Of course, the premise of giving convenience is that it cannot affect the company. If you don't want the company to develop in this direction, don't worry about it. I'll tell my cousin the truth." Yunshu did want to help her cousin get some resources, but the premise was not to make Xiao Yu embarrassed. After a moment, Xiao Yu smiled and said, "You are right. In this field, the company can be an upstream supplier instead of making terminal products. There is great potential and a promising future. As for the cooperative manufacturers, it doesn't matter who you choose." Yunshu's face blossomed immediately after hearing this, and she said in surprise, "Is it really possible?" Xiao Yu nodded with affirmation, "Of course it is true, and your business is my business." Yunshu couldn't help but smile when he heard this. "Thank you." Xiao Yu looked at him and said, "However, the quality control standards must be in accordance with the requirements of Lingjing Technology. You know that our requirements are very high, especially not to harm consumers. If he can't do it, there is no way to talk about cooperation. Although the brand and terminal products are handed over to Likun Technology, if the product quality does not meet the standards and there is a problem, the reputation of Lingjing Technology will be affected. Even if it doesn't, if it harms consumers, I will not cooperate." Yunshu nodded and said in a clever voice, "Of course, don't worry. Zhou Chenggang has no problem with his character. He is working hard to develop products and run the company. Besides, being able to rely on Lingjing Technology is a blessing from heaven for Likun Technology. If Zhou Chenggang tries to be clever, he would be extremely stupid. This is true. Moreover, if he can't even figure this out, it is unlikely that he can take the company public." Xiao Yu immediately made the decision and said, "Okay, it's settled. You go back and say hello to him and ask him to come to Lingzhou to discuss the specific details of the cooperation with the company. I'll say hello to Lao Su later. Forget it, you should talk to Lao Su on the way." Yunshu's pretty face showed a faint smile, and she nodded lightly. Yeah, Xiao Yu looked at her and said with a smile, let your cousin's husband cherish this opportunity. If you want to cooperate with me, you must be ambitious and set a small goal. First, destroy the small notebooks sex toy industry. If he does well, the terminal agency business of the humanoid robot butler can be handed over to his company in the future. At least the OEM business can be given to his company. No matter what, let's draw the pie first. If Likon Technology can seize this opportunity and stand up, Xiao Yu doesn't mind letting Likon Technology do the bionic robot business. If my cousin's husband knew, he would probably be so excited that he couldn't sleep all night. Yunshu couldn't help but laugh. After a while, she also stood up and looked back at Xiao Yu. Then I'll go call my cousin first. Xiao Yu nodded. Go ahead. As Yunshu walked out of the office, Xiao Yu came to the desk and sat down, and then said, Xiao Lan, search for the company Likon Technology, sort out the company's information and transfer it to my work computer. After a while, Xiao Lan's voice rang on the mobile phone on the desktop. Okay, master, please wait. Xiao Yu made an exclusive app adaptation on his personal mobile phone. Xiao Lan is also the most advanced AI on the Earth at present. It is a real general artificial intelligence, and its intelligence level far exceeds the AI Xiaojing released by the company. Xiao Lan is an exclusive AI assistant customized by Xiao Yu for himself. Not only does Xiao Lan serve as a housekeeper in the secret base underground, Xiao Yu can also use it on the ground, but he will not use it in front of others. After a moment, Xiao Lan's voice sounded again. Master, I have sorted out the information about Likon Technology and uploaded it to your work computer. You can check it at any time. Chapter 290, Good First Impression. In the office. Xiao Yu stared at the office computer on the table, browsing the information about Likon Technology provided by Xiao Lan. The full name of this company is Lyran Health Technology Company, Limited. Its main business includes the research and development, production and sales of multilayer co-extruded polyolefin heat-shrinkable film products, research and development, production and sales of thermoplastic elastomers. There are also various terminal consumer-grade fun products such as simulated hair, doll skin, silicone entity simulation dolls, molded cups, bouncing bullets, etc., and the product's matrix is quite rich. Not bad, it is a serious entity manufacturing company, quite powerful. Xiao Yu nodded while browsing some information about Likon Technology. Xiao Lan also retrieved some videos of the company's production workshop, some of which were posted by the company itself, and some were posted by some employees of the company on social media. They were all retrieved and summarized by Xiao Lan. Likon Technology has a major technical highlight. Its independently developed flexible memory material has achieved environmental stability from -45 degrees Celsius to 135 degrees Celsius. This company is not only engaged in the production and research and development of thermoplastic elastomer materials, but also in the production and research and development of high-end silicone. Zhou Chenggang, the founder of Likon Technology, believes that the upgrade of AI doll skin materials will bring about a surge in demand. This year's annual report data shows that Likon Technology's total operating income in 2023 is 753 million yuan, a year-on-year increase of plus 63.35%. Net profit minus 33.8073 million yuan, a year-on-year increase of minus 267.28%. Non-net profit minus 58.8721 million yuan, a year-on-year increase of minus 461.58%. Xiao Lan, the company's revenue increased by about 300 million last year, but its profit dropped sharply. What is the reason and where did the money go? Xiao Yu asked. There was a lot of information, and he was too lazy to read it. It would be more efficient to ask Xiao Lan directly. If Zhou Chenggang played some tricks to get the company's money out, he would pass it without hesitation, even if Yunshu came to plead. After a while, Xiao Lan replied, according to a series of information disclosed by the company and the annual report earnings conference call hosted by its chairman Zhou Chenggang, the reason for the sharp drop in the company's profits is that the company's R&D expenses have been greatly increased. Data shows that Likon Technology's R&D expenses accounted for 27.56% of its operating income in 2023. Zhou Chenggang told shareholders in the earnings conference call that he would continue to increase R&D investment in the future to ensure the market competitiveness of the company's products. Oh? A company engaged in sex products has such a high R&D investment ratio. Xiao Yu couldn't help but heed a word, then nodded and said, well, That's pretty good. Being able to use most of the income for corporate R&D shows that Yunshu's cousin-in-law is ambitious, which is good. Likon Technology's R&D ratio, whether in the industry or across industries, the company is a high R&D investment type enterprise. The ratio of R&D investment to revenue of sex product companies varies depending on factors such as enterprise size, development stage and market positioning. According to the existing data compiled by Xiao, the proportion of R&D investment in the sex product industry is roughly between 0.23% and 30%. The company's R&D ratio accounts for 27.56% of its revenue scale, and according to Zhou Chengyang's statement in the earnings call, he will increase the proportion of R&D investment to about 30% this year. Compared with several peer companies in the industry, Ziyue Qingfeng's R&D investment accounts for only 0.23% of its operating income. Ziyue Qingfeng adopts a light asset business model of internet sales plus OEM production. It mainly purchases through the sales-based procurement model and authorizes its own trademarks to suppliers for OEM production, so it has a low reliance on R&D investment. The R&D investment of Zhu Cesium Company, Limited is also only 0.88%. The company believes that sex products should focus more on market promotion and expansion of sales channels rather than product R&D innovation. As an enterprise integrating independent R&D, production and sales of silicone simulation humanoid robots and silicone simulation dolls, Likon Technology does not follow a light asset business model, but rather focuses on assets and has huge investments. The investment in scientific and technological research and development accounts for nearly one-third of the product sales scale, which also shows that Zhou Chengyang is willing to invest more in research and development in order to pursue technological innovation and product differentiation. Moreover, he also wants to use high technology as the main selling point for future products. For example, if advanced technologies such as artificial intelligence and biomaterials are adopted, the proportion of research and development investment will be even higher. Xiao Yu couldn't help but smile and said to himself, from this information, Yunshu's recommendation is still quite reliable. I don't think this company will rely on Lingjing technology. It will rise in the industry in the future, of course. If there is a thaw of Lingjing technology, it will definitely rise straight up and soar into the sky. However, whether to cooperate or not, the company must send people to Likon Technology Company for on-site research. After all, the information retrieved by Xiao is public. If you want to cooperate, you must understand the information that is not public. Xiao Yu doesn't need to worry about these things personally. Su Changming and others will arrange people to do it. Xiao Yu initially learned about some of Likon Technology's situation. The first impression of this company on him was still very good, at least the first impression made him quite appreciative. Although the annual report is a bit ugly, it is because Zhou Chengyang has greater ambitions and has invested the money he earned into research and development on a large scale. Otherwise, he can turn losses into profits. As long as the research and development ratio is reduced, the money saved is profit. The company landed on the A-share Beijing Stock Exchange last year. The Beijing Stock Exchange, which was recently opened, allows companies with loss-making performance to be listed. The threshold of the Beijing Stock Exchange is also relatively high. Most retail investors in the A-share market cannot speculate on individual stocks of the Beijing Stock Exchange. Moreover, the volatility of the Beijing Stock Exchange is greater, and the price limit can reach plus or minus 30%. The price limit of the main board is plus or minus 10%, and the price limit of the Growth Enterprise Market and the Science and Technology Innovation Board is plus or minus 20%. However, the capital market is not very satisfied with Zhou Chengyang's pie, and investors think that Zhou Chengyang is too aggressive. Likon Technology also peaked on the first day of listing, with the highest market value on the first day reaching 2.8 billion yuan. It has been almost a year since its listing, and the market value has been halved again and again. The lowest share price has fallen to 1.07 yuan per share, and the market value has fallen to 500 million yuan. The current stock price has rebounded, but it is only at the price of 1.5 yuan, and the total market value is only over 700 million yuan, which is lower than the company's annual revenue. The company's current daily turnover in the secondary market is only 1 or 2 million, and sometimes the daily turnover is even less than 1 million, and there is basically no liquidity to speak of. This amount of energy is not enough compared to Lingjing technology. Even if Lingjing technology has shrunk to the lowest level, Its daily turnover is still 40 to 50 billion. If it takes a medium yang line, it can easily reach a turnover of 100 billion. In the past 2 years, it has been firmly occupying the top spot on the daily turnover of the A-share market, and no stock can challenge it. Likon Technology has such liquidity because it is a stock of the Beijing Stock Exchange. There are basically no retail investors playing in this market, and the liquidity of the entire Beijing Stock Exchange is not much. The total daily turnover of the Beijing Stock Exchange 50 index is less than 3 billion. Xiao Yu briefly learned about the company and stopped paying attention to it. Yunshu has come forward, and the relationship between the two is now just about to break the last layer of window paper. Xiao Yu must give her cousin-in-law a chance to hug Lingjing Technology. But the opportunity has been given. Whether they can hold on to the thigh firmly depends on whether Zhou Chenggyang and Likon Technology can stand up. If they can't stand up, Xiao Yu will still cut him off. Humanoid robots are another key business of Lingjing Technology, and they are the precursor technology of the military's highly anticipated exoskeleton-armed power armor. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291, Heavenly Wealth. On the other side, Yunshu was talking to her cousin Yun Rulin on the phone. Sister Shu, are you telling the truth? That's great. I don't know how to thank you. Yun Rulin was pleasantly surprised when she heard the voice on the phone. There was a man sitting next to her. It was her husband Zhou Chenggyang, the founder of Likon Technology. The phone was on external speakers, so Zhou Chenggyang could hear it too. He didn't say anything, just listened to the conversation between the cousins silently, but his face was full of excitement, even more than his wife Yun Rulin, without the calmness of a listed company boss. This was actually normal. Being able to hold on to the thigh of Lingjing Technology was definitely a blessing from heaven. This was something he had never dared to think about. He didn't have high expectations, but he didn't expect to receive such an unexpected surprise. Yunshu said on the phone, "After all, Sister Lan, you have helped me a lot in the past, so please take care of me. I will do my best to help you if I can." Hearing this, Yun Rulin immediately replied, "You are talking in a strange way. It happened so long ago and I have forgotten it completely. Besides, it is what I should do. You are not an outsider. I just don't know if this will embarrass you." Yunshu smiled and said, "It's not that difficult. I have a good relationship with Mr. Xiao. I went to talk to him specifically about this matter." After these words came out, Zhou Chenggyang and his wife looked at each other in surprise. They didn't expect Yunshu to talk to Xiao Yu directly about this matter, and from what she said, it seemed that she had a special relationship with Xiao Yu. After a while, Yun Rulin seemed to be curious and gossiping. "Hey, Sister Shu, are you in a relationship with Mr. Xiao from Lingjing Technology? Of course, you are so beautiful and capable, your talent and appearance are first class." Mr. Xiao can't help but be moved. Her words seemed like a woman's curiosity and gossip, but in fact, Yun Rulin wanted to further confirm the relationship between Xiao Yu and Yunshu. Yunshu on the other side of the phone couldn't help but be slightly stunned when she heard her words. The relationship between the two was indeed extraordinary, but Yunshu had been in the workplace for so many years and was not a rookie. She actually heard the hidden intention of her cousin Yun Rulin's words, which was to inquire about information. Yunshu immediately pretended to be at a loss whether to laugh or cry and replied, "How is that possible? The company is so busy, how can I have time to fall in love? I don't have time, and President Xiao has even less time. I have a good relationship with President Xiao because I have been following his career for a long time. I am considered one of the founders of Lingjing Technology. It's not the kind of relationship you think, is that so?" Yun Rulin seemed to suddenly realize. After hearing what Yunshu said, she felt that there was either nothing between this cousin and Xiao Yu, or Yunshu didn't want to talk about it. Naturally, she knew better and didn't continue the topic. She immediately found an excuse to skip it. "But Sister Shu, having said that, you are also of marriageable age. Work and career are important, but lifelong events are equally important." Yunshu's voice came from the phone. "Thank you for your concern, Sister Lan. This kind of thing still depends on fate." Yun Rulin smiled and said, "That's true. The two sides quickly skipped over this topic after a few words, and Yunshu added, Sister Lan, I have discussed your matter with President Xiao. President Xiao is indeed interested in expanding the commercial application of humanoid robots in the sex industry, and he does not object to cooperating with Likan Technology. These words immediately made Zhou Chenggang, who was listening, excited again, and he almost jumped up from his seat with excitement. At this time, Yunshu changed the subject. However, I don't have the right to decide whether it can be successful or not. The key to whether we can cooperate depends on whether your company can obtain the indicator recognition of Lingjing technology. This is also the requirement clearly stated by President Xiao, and the company has very high requirements for its partners, so you should have a rough idea in mind. Of course, your introduction has been a great help. If we fail to seize this opportunity, it is also our fault. But no matter what, Chenggang and I will remember your kindness. Yun Rulan said with a smile. After a moment, Yun Rulan nodded again and said, Okay, I'll tell Chenggang to prepare the materials and go to Linzhou immediately. Okay, that's it for now. You are a senior executive of a large company like Lingjing Technology. You must be very busy. I won't disturb you. Bye. As the phone was hung up, Zhou Chenggang, who had been silent for a long time, slapped his thigh excitedly and said excitedly, The wealth from the sky is pouring down, haha. Yun Rulan reminded, Don't be happy too early, didn't you hear what Shumei said? There's still one last hurdle to pass before we can succeed. She can't help with this last hurdle. We have to rely on ourselves. Zhou Chenggang calmed down a lot after hearing this. He nodded and said, You're right. Opening champagne at halftime has always been a taboo. Whether Likan Technology can soar to the sky depends on whether it can really hold the thigh of Lingjing Technology on this trip to Linzhou. At this time, Zhou Chenggang looked at his wife and said, Your cousin is a core executive of Lingjing Technology. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Yun Rulan immediately said, You didn't ask me, and I only found out last year. Zhou Chenggang asked suspiciously, No way. You have a good relationship with your cousin, how come you don't know her so well? Yun Rulan rolled her eyes at him. No matter how good the relationship is, there must be a minimum sense of boundaries. We went our separate ways after growing up. Before, she just said that she worked at Lingjing Technology and her income was okay. I didn't ask much and thought she was just a white-collar worker working in this company. After a pause, Yun Rulan added, It wasn't until I accidentally saw the information of the company's executive team half a year ago that I realized that she was not a white-collar worker at all. She was actually the company's chief financial officer and a member of the board of directors. Lingjing Technology is a listed company, and the lists of senior executives and board members are published, and they can be easily found by actively checking. Yun Rulan shook her head with a smile. I was thinking before that if her work was not going well, I would let her come to Likan, but I didn't expect her to achieve such amazing results quietly. Zhou Chenggang couldn't help but say. I just heard her say that she is a veteran of Lingjing Technology. That's amazing. She must have shares. Then how much is her worth? Yun Rulan said. Yes, I specially checked the public information. Shumei now holds 500 million shares of Lingjing Technology. In fact, Yunshu had 850 million shares at most. When the HP fund was established a few years ago, Xiao Yu took the lead in transferring all his shares in Lingjing Technology to the HP fund free of charge. He only retained 1% of the shares symbolically. The company's senior management team also transferred some shares, including Yunshu. Zhou Chenggang took out his mobile phone to check the current share price of Lingjing Technology. Recently, the company's stock price has been trading sideways near the high of 277.19 yuan for a while. It did not break upward, but was affected by the sluggish market environment and adjusted back. The trend is a box-shaped oscillation. The latest closing price of Lingjing Technology is 231.52 yuan, and the corresponding total market value is 20.09 trillion yuan. The company has strong support for the 20 trillion market value. Wow, 500 million shares means 115.7 billion yuan. Our family's worth is not even a fraction of hers. Zhou Chenggang was amazed. The current market value of Likan Technology is only 700 million yuan. The couple holds a total of 39.58% of the shares, corresponding to a market value of 277 million yuan. The combined worth of the two of them is less than 300 million yuan. Financial freedom is certain, and it is a height that 99% of the general public will never reach in their lifetime, but compared with Yun Shu, it is not enough. Zhou Chenggyang couldn't help but say, "Your cousin is worth this much? She is a super rich woman with hundreds of billions of dollars. In my opinion, it will be difficult for her to get out of being single. There are probably not many men she can look up to." At this time, Yun Rulan glared at him. "Okay, don't talk about these nonsense. Let's prepare for the trip to Lintao. This is the top priority. If you can't catch the wealth from the sky, you will cry." Zhou Chenggyang was immediately refreshed. "Yes, I will plan it immediately." Chapter 292, Handing Over the Soul. Mr. Zhou chooses to win by doing nothing. In order to hold on to Lingjing technology, Zhou Chenggyang has made a major decision without hesitation. Then throw away your brain, give your soul to Lingjing technology, choose a comfortable posture to win. Isn't that great? That's right, he wants to follow the operation of the boss of Xiaoking shares. This company has been renamed Celis not long ago, and the Wenji M9, which cooperated with Huawei, is a big seller. Since handing over the soul to Huawei, Celis's stock price has been rising all the way, and the current market value has reached 150 billion. Likon Technology has such a great opportunity this time. Zhou Chenggyang feels that if he misses it, he may never have such a good opportunity in his life. Then he must grasp it. He has decided to hand over the soul to Lingjing Technology. Then Zhou Chenggyang must do whatever Lingjing Technology wants Likon Technology to do. Old Zhou, are you kidding me? Likon is a company that makes sex products. Why would Lingjing Technology look for you? Your story is too far-fetched. In an office, a middle-aged man invited by Zhou Chenggyang was full of suspicion and disbelief, and even a little unhappy. He is an investor who has participated in Likon Technology's B round of financing and led the B round of financing. He is now the third largest shareholder of the company. If you say so, then don't say that I didn't look for you, and don't say that I am not a decent person. I will go to Linsao City in a few days to discuss specific cooperation matters with Lingjing Technology, Zhou Chenggyang said calmly and confidently. This time he brought this investor here because he decided to ask him for money, and it was not refinancing, but direct borrowing of funds, in other words, borrowing money. He asked the investor for money to make Likon Technology's capital chain healthier, so that the cooperation with Lingjing Technology could be smoothly reached in the next discussion. Zhou Chenggyang actually didn't have a firm grasp on whether he could get the support of Lingjing Technology, but at this moment in front of the investors, he knew that he must be full of momentum and confidence. The middle-aged man was skeptical, and seeing Zhou Chenggyang's attitude seemed to be true, he still questioned, would a big company like Lingjing Technology be interested in a niche field like the sex industry? It's niche now because the technology is not in place. After the bionic doll and prosthetic technology matures, the market size will really be a niche, and the current technology has almost reached that point. Zhou Chenggyang said this, and his words were extremely certain. The middle-aged man questioned again, how can a large enterprise like Lingjing Technology be willing to lower its status to do this kind of business? Zhou Chenggyang immediately said upon hearing this, you are discriminating in the industry, and eating the rice in the pot and smashing the pot. This is really not authentic. To put it another way, if you can't lower your status, then doesn't it just need a partner? In this way, Lingjing Technology doesn't have to go in and do it itself. Isn't that the truth? The investor questioned again. Okay, even if that's the case, why would Lingjing Technology cooperate with you, Likon? Zhou Chenggyang suddenly smiled intriguingly. Seeing him like this, the middle-aged man didn't understand what he was trying to say. He saw Zhou Chenggyang pretending to be proud and said calmly, why? Of course it's a matter of connections. The middle-aged man was stunned when he heard this, and immediately said, relationships? What do you mean? Zhou Chenggyang smiled and said, okay, Mr. Li, I won't keep you in suspense. My wife has a cousin named Yun Shu, who is a co-executive of Lingjing Technology, the company's chief financial officer and one of the 7 directors. As an investor, you should know who the executive team of Lingjing Technology is, right? As soon as these words came out, the investor immediately lost his composure and said in shock, are you serious? Zhou Chenggyang continued to smile, and then nodded with affirmation, absolutely true, what you said is not wrong. If it weren't for this network of contacts, I might not even be able to get an appointment with a mid to senior level director of Lingjing Technology. Mr. Li was very surprised at this moment. He never expected that Zhou Chenggyang had such a strong network of contacts. One of the directors of Lingjing Technology was actually his wife's cousin. That was another matter. At this time, Zhou Chenggyang said in an orderly manner, "To be honest, my wife talked to her on the phone today. I didn't expect that she communicated directly with Mr. Xiao to talk about my matter. According to the information she revealed to my wife, Mr. Xiao is interested in cooperation and has invited me to Linsao City to meet and discuss in detail." This made the investor even more surprised, and he already had the idea of giving money in his mind. Zhou Chenggyang continued, "The biggest reason why I asked you to provide financial support for the company this time is that once Likon Technology catches the giant sale of Lingjing Technology, it will not be a small fight, it will definitely be a big deal, and it will require greater investment." After a pause, Zhou Chenggyang added confidently, "With the support of Lingjing Technology, Likon Technology will be the next Celis, 100%, no matter how much investment I dare to go all in." In short, the demand for funds will soar. When Mr. Li heard about Celis, his eyes lit up immediately. Before Celis caught Huawei's Fi, the company was almost unable to operate, and the stock price was also falling. But since cooperating with Huawei, the business is now thriving, and the company's market value has soared to more than 150 billion, bringing investors more than 10 times the rich return. Thinking of this, Mr. Li was already excited. After a moment, Zhou Chenggyang suddenly said, "Mr. Li, you might as well give me the money or not. Otherwise, I'll look for other investors. I have to settle the funding issue today. I have to prepare for the trip to Linsao and the negotiations with Lingjing Technology. I'm in a hurry." Mr. Li was immediately anxious and made a decision on the spot. "Hey, no need to look for anyone else. I'll give it to you. Just tell me how big the funding gap is. Even if you want 1 billion or 3 billion, I will find a way to help you get the money. If my money is not enough, I can get people to make it up for you." Then, Mr. Li added, "But Lao Zhou, this is not fair. I want to raise more funds to get some equity, knowing that Likon Technology could rely on Lingjing Technology. The entire Likon Technology would have to be revalued, and its equity would be very valuable." Zhou Chenggyang refused without hesitation. "Mr. Li, refinancing is very troublesome, and I also have to ensure the risk of corporate control. The news has been given to you, so why don't you buy the bottom in the secondary market? The current share price of 1.5 yuan is simply the cheapest price among cabbages. If it is not inappropriate, I would want to buy the bottom myself. Strictly speaking, this is definitely considered insider trading, but this situation is difficult to define and difficult to trace and prove. Information asymmetry exists at all times, and there are always some people who can know the news first." Of course, he understood what Zhou Chenggyang meant. The implication is that now only the news has been revealed to you, and it depends on your own ideas whether to buy the bottom in the secondary market. When the news spreads, the stock price of Likon Technology will definitely take off, and you will never be able to pick up such cheap chips again. Mr. Li waited in his mind and decided that buying the bottom in the secondary market is indeed safer. The current stock price of Likon Technology is too cheap, and equity refinancing is also risky. Borrowing funds from the other party will yield a small return, but the risk is also low. The borrowed money must be repaid, and interest must be calculated. If the cooperation fails, Zhou Chenggyang can immediately pay back the money. Equity refinancing is to exchange money for shares. If you get the equity, you can't get the money back. To recover the funds, you can only find someone to take over the equity. At the same time, the current share price of Likon Technology is very cheap. If you use the funds to buy part of the bottom in the secondary market, the return will not be low. After some consideration and weighing, Mr. Li agreed immediately. Zhou Chenggyang settled the investors and solved the company's potential capital chain problem. He was ready to leave for Linsao Lingjing Technology. Chapter 293, Buying the Bargain Price of Likon. In a certain city, a young man, Zhao Mingji, who is about 28 years old, is studying the stock of Likon Technology. He is a retail investor of A-shares and an old stock investor. He started playing A-shares when he was 20 years old and has been trading stocks for 7 or 8 years. Zhao Mingji's main business is self-media. In the past 2 years when Lingjing Technology set off the AI craze, he was the first to contact new things and thus reaped some dividends. He used to lose a lot of money in stock trading, but now he is making a profit. In terms of the market conditions of the A-share market this year, few people can make money, and more than 90% of stock investors are losing money. Unless you buy the stock of Lingjing Technology, especially those who hold it for more than 1 year for long-term investment, you will make money. The difference is how much you make. Xiao Mingji made a profit this year, precisely because he invested in the stock of Lingjing Technology, and it was a long-term investment. At present, he has a floating profit of about 260,000 yuan on this stock, and continues to hold it firmly for a long time. It's really hard to describe the liquidity of the Beijing Stock Exchange. Xiao Mingji couldn't help but complain when he looked at the trading volume of Lingjing Technology. Today is Tuesday, and it is about 1:15 p.m. The current trading volume of Lingjing Technology is barely over 1 million yuan. Some days ago, there were even many trading days with a daily trading volume of less than 1 million yuan. The trading volume of Lingjing Technology next door has now reached more than 53 billion. The Beijing Stock Exchange has been established for only 2 years, and the entry threshold for individual investors, that is, retail investors, is 500,000 assets and 2 years of experience. Most retail investors cannot reach this threshold. Without retail investors, it is naturally impossible to have the same liquidity as the main board. In addition, the A-share market was sluggish again in the second half of the year, and the trading activity and liquidity of the entire market were rapidly declining. The main board had no liquidity and was siphoned by Lingjing Technology. It was even more impossible for the Beijing Stock Exchange to have any liquidity. Xiao Mingji's account had long reached the threshold of the Beijing Stock Exchange, but the trading rights were only opened recently, and he had not traded a single stock of the Beijing Stock Exchange so far. The main reason was that he didn't dare to do it. There were basically no retail investors participating in the Beijing Stock Exchange. It could be said that it was all sickle versus sickle. Xiao Mingji felt that he couldn't beat those people, and the volatility of the Beijing Stock Exchange was larger than that of the Chi-Next and the Science and Technology Innovation Board, with a daily limit of plus or minus 30%. If he hit the upper and lower limits, he could lose minus 46.15% in one day, basically having his investment. He had never thought about participating in the stock trading in the Beijing Stock Exchange, but one of the stocks he was interested in was listed on the Beijing Stock Exchange, which was Zhou Chengyang's company, Lingjing Technology. It was because he wanted to invest in this stock that he opened the trading rights of the Beijing Stock Exchange. Since its listing, Lingjing Technology stock price has been halved again and again. At this moment, the stock price fluctuates at 1.47 yuan, with a daily drop of nearly 4 percentage points, and the current market value is only 683 million yuan. Even if this kind of stock is on the main board, most investors will basically not touch it, especially this year's performance has suffered a huge loss. But Xiao Mingji is very optimistic about this stock, and he agrees with Zhou Chengyang's philosophy. The loss in the annual report is not because the company cannot make money, but because Zhou Chengyang has invested the money he earned, and most of the funds are still used for technology research and development, and the research and development funds account for 2 or 3 layers of the company's revenue. Speaking of which, Xiao Mingji, who is still single, is still a user of Lingjing Technology's products. He has bought many products of this company. Not only are they cheap and affordable, but the experience is not much worse than the well-known big brands over there. Having personally used Lingjing Technology's products, from the user's perspective, he is also very satisfied with the company's products. This is one of the reasons why he is optimistic about this company and is optimistic about the company's growth potential. In addition, the founder Zhou Chengyang is keen on technological innovation. In the earnings conference call, he repeatedly emphasized that Lingjing Technology must embrace AI. He firmly believes that this is a major trend in the future. As AI technology and prosthetic technology mature, it will surely empower this industry. This is exactly the view that Xiao Mingji agrees with. It should not fall much, so I won't wait. Xiao Mingji looked at the market trend of Lingjing Technology and decided to intervene in the stock today. This stock fell to 1.07 yuan more than a month ago, setting a new historical low. Yesterday, it reached 1.61 yuan. The cumulative increase in this period rebounded by plus 50%, which is not a small rebound. However, the previous value is too oversold. Even if it rebounded by 50 points, the stock price is still very cheap and cost-effective. The market environment is also an important factor in the tragic decline of Lingjing Technology. Small-cap stocks, large-cap stocks, and blue-chip stocks are all falling. Only Lingjing Technology is strong enough. Such a large plate has reached a historical high this year despite the bear market. Other stocks have reached various new lows this year, and even historical lows are everywhere. Buy it, Zhao Mingji made up his mind to execute it immediately. It was around 1:22 p.m. He began to intervene in Likon Technology and planned to buy 200,000 yuan. At this moment, the intraday share price of Likon Technology is 1.47 yuan, and it is currently down -3.92%. Zhao Mingji quoted a purchase price of 1.47 yuan and waited for a turnover transaction. As a result, after waiting for 5 or 6 minutes, only about 47,000 yuan was traded. For the next 8 minutes, the transaction volume was zero. There was no turnover in these 8 minutes. In other words, Zhao Mingji quoted a purchase price of 1.47 yuan, but no one placed a sell order at 1.47 yuan for such a long time. The liquidity is really poor. No matter how rubbish the main board stocks are, the intraday trend can at least be like a loom. The stocks of the Beijing Stock Exchange are not even weaving. Zhao Mingji was powerless to complain. This situation would only occur in the Beijing Stock Exchange market. No matter how small the transaction volume of the main board stocks is, no matter how rubbish the stocks are, even street stocks will not have a zero turnover rate for such a long time. He was not in a hurry and did not plan to withdraw the order and rebid a higher price, because if he quoted 1 cent more, the price would be about 0.7 percentage points higher. Anyway, there was still a lot of time before the closing. As long as no one came to grab the shares at a high price, he could buy all the 200,000 shares at 1.47 yuan today. If he really couldn't buy all the shares, he could just buy them tomorrow. At the same time, Mr. Li, who had obtained exclusive insider information, was almost ready at this time. He had already notified the trader to start buying the bottom of Likon Technology in the secondary market today, and he was using diving funds, that is, shadow holding, instead of increasing his holdings as the third largest shareholder of Likon Technology. About 20 minutes later, Zhao Mingji saw that only 1/3 of the 200,000 buy orders were traded, and he felt hopeless. At this time, a large sell order suddenly appeared on the sell side, directly listing a sell order at a price of 1.45 yuan. This sell order was close to 300,000, and also hit a new intraday low for Likon Technology stock price, hitting the price of 1.45 yuan, a drop of -5.23%. The buying price of the remaining 130,000 or so shares of Zhao Mingji was 1.47 yuan, so all the transactions were completed directly. There is actually a 300,000 sell order quoting 1.45 yuan. I should have known the gradient quotation earlier. Zhao Mingji couldn't help but say that the transaction price of the 200,000 funds he bought was 1.47 yuan, and the number of shares held was 136,000. The current stock price has further dropped to 1.45 yuan. He just bought and suffered a floating loss of -1.36%, a floating loss of more than 2,700 yuan. Finally, I've bought it, Zhao Mingji breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't care too much about the floating loss. The strategy of investing in Likon Technology is also long-term. This position will not fall much, even if it goes back to 1.07 yuan. If it really goes back to the historical low, Zhao Mingji even plans to add another 100,000 yuan. After a while, just when he was about to close the software, the Likon Technology time-sharing line, which had been struggling to jump a few times, suddenly pulled straight up, like pulling onions vertically in dry land. Chapter 294, Is it time to take off? There was capital that was frantically buying up stocks, breaking through yesterday's high point in seconds, and there was no intention to stop, and it was still wildly forcing shorts. Zhao Mingji looked at the trend of Likon Technology with a confused face. What the hell? Why did it suddenly rise straight up? What happened? Did some capital make a wrong order? The capital that suddenly entered the market to buy up stocks was not a wrong order, but Mr. Li's bottom fishing capital. Zhao Mingji saw with his own eyes that Likon Technology's time-sharing line went straight from 1.45 yuan to 1.86 yuan in one breath, and the decline of -5.23% turned into +21.57% in a blink of an eye. His account also turned from a floating loss of -1.36% to +26.53% in a blink of an eye, and from a floating loss of more than 2,700 yuan to a floating profit of 53,000 yuan. Zhao Mingji was stunned for a while, and said, Will they pull a 30-centimeter daily limit? The daily limit of the Beijing Stock Exchange is plus 30%. Zhao Mingji, who originally planned to shut down the software, also planned to continue to see if Likon Technology could reach the daily limit. At this moment, the stock quickly rose by about 21 percentage points and then stopped rising. The original trend of the loom suddenly fluctuated violently, and it fell back by 7 percentage points in a second, but then quickly pulled back. Zhao Mingji's floating profit of holding the stock also fluctuated violently, suddenly becoming 20,000 or 30,000, suddenly becoming 40,000 or 50,000, and then suddenly becoming 30,000 or 40,000. Mr. Li's trader did not pull the limit in a straight line. His funds were not for charity, but for bottom fishing. Pulling the limit in a straight line would make the holders reluctant to sell. If no one sold, Mr. Li would not get the chips, and closing the limit would be like carrying the sedan chair for others. Pulling up without closing the limit, and oscillating at a high level, can better shake out the chips of the opponent, especially the chips of retail investors. After all, with such a large increase and no limit on the price increase, most retail investors will worry that the stock will fall back after rising and become rich in the market. Based on this worry, they will choose to lock in profits and sell their chips. However, Likon Technology is a stock listed on the Beijing Stock Exchange. There are some retail investors, but not many. The latest number of shareholders shows that there are only 1,822 households in Likon Technology. In fact, there are less than 300 real retail investors, and the total market value of all retail investors is also very small. The threshold of the Beijing Stock Exchange has blocked most retail investors, and even these less than 300 retail investors are basically lying down and pretending to be dead. Many people don't even check their accounts. Many people don't open their accounts for 1 or 2 months, and they don't know that Likon Technology is rising sharply now. The comment area of Likon Technology stock bar is also completely unpopular. The latest comment shows that the posting time is half a month ago, which shows that even dogs don't play. The current market situation of Beijing Stock Exchange stocks is like this. If Mr. Li wants to wash out the chips from these hundreds of retail investors, he might as well wash and sleep. However, he had no intention of washing the chips of retail investors. Because he had little time to buy at the bottom, only a few days this week. As long as Zhou Chenggang appeared in Lingjing Technology, he would be discovered by other peer institutions immediately. The capital market's attention to Lingjing Technology was there. Other investors might not know Zhou Chenggang, or even pay attention to him. But as long as he went to Lingjing Technology, he would definitely be discovered, and then he would have to compete with more peers for meat, so the time left for Mr. Li to eat alone was just a few days. The chips of hundreds of retail investors inside could not be washed out. No matter how fierce you are, they don't even open their accounts to take a look. No matter how fierce your operation is, it is equivalent to operating in vain. Mr. Li's target of collecting chips in the secondary market is not retail investors at all, but high-frequency quantitative trading funds. In the current A-share market, quantitative fund trading is hot, which is also hated by countless retail investors in the A-share market. Quantitative fund AI models assist high-frequency trading, and hundreds of transactions can be made in 1 second. No matter how fast a person's hand is, it can't be compared. Quantitative trading is all automated by robots based on quantitative models. As long as some indicators of the model are triggered, it will be executed, no matter what the stock target is, whether it is the main board, the Chi-Next or the Beijing Stock Exchange. This is precisely the opportunity for Mr. Li to collect chips, because Mr. Li's own investment institution has a quantitative plate. He wants to collect chips quickly. The strategy is to raise the stock price, that is, to let the other party make a profit and leave, to carry the sedan chair for them, and let them leave with profits. Even if it is raised by 1 or 2 times, it is completely acceptable to Mr. Li, because he knows that Likon Technology has embraced the thigh of Lingjing Technology, and it is not a dream to increase by dozens of times. 10 times is just the beginning. As long as there is a turnover of chips, even if it is a 1 or 2 times premium, it is a blood profit for Mr. Li. These are all small profits, and the big meat will come later. And if the stock price is raised and there are violent fluctuations, it can easily trigger quantitative smashing. At this time, if it is a human trader, it is difficult to exchange chips, especially the players in the Beijing Stock Exchange, most of whom are sickles, and they are all thieves. But quantitative funds are different. As long as its indicators can be triggered, the market will be smashed, and it will be smashed in seconds. At 1442, the time-sharing line of Likon Technology ended its sideways trading and began to rise straight to 1.99 yuan, with an increase of plus 30.07% to close the daily limit. However, the transaction volume of Likon Technology, which has a daily limit of 30 centimeters, is only more than 12 million yuan at this moment. This amount of funds thrown into the market of Lingjing Technology will not make any waves at all, but it can pull a 30-centimeter daily limit here at Likon Technology of the Beijing Stock Exchange. Although the transaction volume is only more than 12 million yuan, compared with the volume of this stock yesterday, the volume has increased by 10 times, which can be said to be a huge release for this stock. In today's board, Mr. Li did not collect many chips, and the turnover of this volume did not all go into his hands. There are other quantitative funds that have also grabbed chips. There are quantitative smashes, and there are also quantitative meetings that come in to grab chips. There are so many quantitative institutions in the A-share market now, and different quantitative trading models have different strategy models. Mr. Li doesn't care about being robbed of chips by other quantitative trading platforms. As long as there is a turnover rate, he is now playing the role of a good guy, actively using real money to raise the stock price, triggering the quantitative trading platform, and increasing the turnover rate. At the same time, retail investor Zhao Mingji was very excited when he saw the time sharing of Likon Technology. Damn, it's really a real board. I didn't expect that the first time I traded the stocks of the Beijing Stock Exchange, I would get the first 30 centimeters daily limit in my life. He looked at his position account. The purchase price of Likon Technology was 1.47 yuan, and the latest price is now 1.99 yuan. After the stock hit the daily limit, he earned more than 30 centimeters today, but earned plus 35.37%, a floating profit of about 70,000, because he traded at a position of about minus 4% underwater. Big meat, cool. Zhao Mingji was in a good mood. He really didn't expect that Likon Technology would hit a 30 centimeter daily limit today. Zhao Mingji couldn't help but say to himself, fortunately I didn't hesitate too much. Fortunately I bought it today and successfully got on the train before takeoff, otherwise my thigh would be swollen. As soon as Likon Technology's 30 centimeters daily limit came out, Zhao Mingji was looking forward to it. Could it be the rhythm of taking off? On the same day, the Dragon and Tiger list data came out, and Likon Technology was also on the list. The buying and selling orders were all quantitative institutions. Without hot money, the total transaction volume today was only more than 12 million. Such liquidity is impossible for hot money to participate. Such a small ticket has no liquidity and no capacity. It is also a ticket from the Beijing Stock Exchange. Hot money is afraid of being buried alive by the market maker. Moreover, even if it is a 30 centimeter daily limit, there is no attention at all. Hot money doesn't look at it, and retail investors don't look at it. Even if they see it, they will just take a look and look at other tickets. Chapter 295, News Exposed. The next day was Wednesday. Likon Technology opened at 1.90 yuan in the morning, a deep water low of minus 4.52%. After opening, it quickly fell further and was hit by quantitative funds to 1.72 yuan, widening the decline to minus 13.56%. Zhao Mingji was also watching this stock. The plunge of minus 13.56% made him feel painful, but he did not operate it. On the one hand, there was a 35-point profit cushion, and on the other hand, he was not trying to intervene in the stock with a short-term strategy. After only 1 minute of retreat, Likon Technology stopped falling at 1.72 yuan, and then quickly rose straight to turn red. Mr. Li's trader took the chips from the quantitative market smash and took the initiative to lift the sedan chair upward to sweep up the goods. As long as there are enough chips in hand, it will not open low today. Mr. Li's funds will directly seal the board all the way to the top. After Likon Technology turned red, there was no more retracement. It continued to rise in a straight line. Just 5 minutes after the opening, that is, around 9:35, the stock price rose to 2.59 yuan, an increase of plus 30.15%, and the 30 centimeter daily limit was closed. Today's trading volume increased to 18.71 million yuan compared with Tuesday. After the second consecutive limit, the market value of Likon Technology climbed to 1.204 billion yuan. At the same time, Zhou Chengyang was almost ready, and had contacted Lingjing Technology and made an appointment for a specific meeting time. He will fly there tomorrow and go to Lingjing Technology headquarters the day after tomorrow to discuss the cooperation between the two parties. Wow, is it so amazing? Can the 30-centimeter board be continuously closed? Zhao Mingji, who just entered the stock yesterday, was shocked at the moment, and at the same time extremely happy. The 30 centimeters daily limit, two boards are close to 70 points of profit. His cost is 1.47, and now he has made a profit of 76 percentage points, and has made a profit of more than 150,000. Likon Technology has doubled since its historical lowest point of 1.07 yuan more than a month ago, with a cumulative increase of plus 142.05%. Zhao Mingji, who was watching the stock's time-sharing market, couldn't help but mutter, could it be that the semi-annual report exceeded expectations? It is now July, the time node for the pre-disclosure of the semi-annual performance in the first half of the year. However, Zhao Mingji shook his head again. No, the semi-annual performance must still be a loss. It may be that the major shareholder has lifted the ban and shipped the shares that were released to the major shareholder. Likon Technology went public last year. This month, a batch of restricted shares happened to be released, with more than 30 million shares, accounting for about 6.88% of the total share capital. It is not uncommon for restricted shares to surge on the eve of a wave of surges, and to pull up shipments to attract retail investors to take over. In addition, Zhao Mingji could not think of any reason to drive the stock to suddenly rise without warning. Even many institutions did not know that Zhou Chengyang was going to hug Xiao Yu's FI, and Zhao Mingji, a retail investor, was even less likely to know. He thought about it again. It is unlikely to raise the price to sell, because Likon Technology is a stock in the Beijing Stock Exchange market. If you want to raise the price to attract retail investors to buy and sell, you need retail investors, and there are not many retail investors in the Beijing Stock Exchange. Unless you want to let the investors take over, the major shareholders will discuss with some fund managers privately, and let the funds take the initiative to take over after raising the price. However, Zhao Mingji was just a little curious. He did not intend to sell. Optimistic about the future growth of Likon Technology, he was investing in this stock with a long-term strategy. If it hadn't been for the 30-centimeter daily limit yesterday, after buying it yesterday, I planned to wait for a year or two to see. After going through the 30-centimeter level daily limit today, Likon Technology has attracted more attention. It is rare for the 30-centimeter daily limit to be able to be continuous in the Beijing Stock Exchange. The attention has increased, but it's just like that. There is no sector driving effect at all. Some stocks that are also concept stocks of sex products, such as Guoshu Technology, Aimu Shares, Sibao Technology, and Rebecca, did not react at all, indicating that the impact of Likon Technology on the market is almost negligible. The next day, Thursday, Zhou Chengyang has already flown to Linsao City and stayed in a hotel in the city to rest. He is ready to go to Lingjing Technology tomorrow. The appointment time has been set. At the same time, in the capital market, Likon Technology opened at 2.91 yuan today, a large gap up plus 12.35%, and fell back to the lowest price of the day at 2.78 yuan, and the increase narrowed to plus 7.33%. It only fell back for half a minute before it was pulled up again, and it went straight up to the daily limit with a forced shorting trend. At 9:34, Likon Technology stock price rose to 3.37 yuan. An increase of plus 30.12%, and the daily limit was closed, successfully entering the second and third boards. Today, there was a shrinking daily limit, with a turnover of only over 10 million, which is lower than the volume of the first board. About 2 minutes after the board was closed, major market software pushed a message. Likon Technology hit the daily limit in the morning, and recorded 3 consecutive boards in 3 days. The company's main business is sex products. Likon Technology, which hit the daily limit for 3 times, has initially attracted attention. Some stock exchange groups have already had screenshots of discussions by stockholders. There has been no new comments in the stock bar comment area for half a month, but now 3 or 5 messages have popped up. The 30 centimeters daily limit of the Beijing Stock Exchange is rare, and consecutive daily limits are even rarer, not to mention 3 consecutive limits. The first Beijing Stock Exchange stock to achieve 3 consecutive limits in history is Weichang Optoelectronics, which achieved 3 consecutive limits on December 13, 2023, doubling in 3 days. 3 consecutive limits? It doubled. Zhao Mingji woke up at 10 o'clock today. At this moment, he opened the market software and looked at Likon Technology. At a glance, his drowsy state that had not yet woken up disappeared, and the whole person was refreshed. The 3-day 3 board doubled directly, to be exact, plus 120.26%, and Zhao Mingji's cost price was 1.47 yuan. His holding rate of return soared to plus 129.25%, and the floating profit of holdings soared to 258,000 yuan. Should I sell some? Zhao Mingji saw that the 3-day profit doubled, and wondered whether to lock in the profit. After struggling for a while, he suddenly shook his head and said to himself, no, if you want to do long-term, then hold firmly, integrate knowledge and action, and lock the position. Although there was some thought of taking profits, Zhao Mingji finally decided to hold the stock. It was Friday. Zhou Changjiang had arrived at Lingjing Technology on time. What he didn't expect was that it was Su Changming, the CEO of Lingjing Technology, who met with him in person. Such a specification made him feel flattered and particularly excited. He almost said on the spot that Mr. Su must take away the soul of Likon Technology. At the same time, in the capital market, Likon Technology opened at 3.71 yuan today, up 10.08%. After the opening, there was no retracement. It opened high and went high, with both volume and price rising. Because Mr. Li has almost collected enough chips. At 9:42, Likon Technology stock price hit 4.38 yuan, up 29.97%, hitting the daily limit, successfully entering the fourth board 3 times, and the company's total market value also climbed to 2.036 billion yuan. Major market software pushes fast news. Likon Technology hit the daily limit in the morning, 4 consecutive days, becoming the first stock to hit the daily limit 4 times since the establishment of the Beijing Stock Exchange, and the current transaction volume exceeds 40 million yuan. With the 4 consecutive boards, Likon Technology's attention has increased significantly, and more stockholders have come to leave comments in its stock bar comment area. Although they can't buy it, they also come to watch. Stockholders are very curious about the logic of this ticket, which has skyrocketed so much. Is it so outrageous? It can actually hit the daily limit for 4 consecutive days. This is a 30-centimeter board. What is the reason for such a sharp rise? Zhao Mingji was shocked and excited. It hit the daily limit for 4 days, with a cumulative increase of plus 186.27%. Calculated from the historical lowest point of 1.07 yuan, the cumulative increase has soared to 309.34% to today's daily limit, which is 3 times higher than the historical low. Zhao Mingji's cost price is 1.47 yuan, and the current rate of return has soared to plus 197.95%, which is basically equivalent to doubling in 4 days. The floating profit has further expanded to 395,000 yuan, and his current total net worth has officially exceeded 100 W. At about 14:20 in the afternoon, a rumor suddenly came out. A so-called insider broke the news that Zhou Changjiang, the founder of Likon Technology, had appeared in Linzhou City at the invitation of Lingjing Technology and met with Lingjing Technology executives to discuss the possibility of business cooperation. The person who broke the news was surprisingly planned by General Manager Li. Because in these 4 days, he has achieved the goal of collecting chips by nearly doubling the premium to hit 430 centimeters level daily limit boards. Next, it is time for others to take over his support, so he planned to leak the gossip. Originally, it did not attract much attention, but this gossip suddenly came out, causing the attention index of Likon Technology to soar. Wow, so this is the reason for the surge in Likon Technology? Is it true or not? It is definitely a major positive. Major positive. Zhao Mingji also saw the gossip on the internet, which made him overjoyed. He felt that the authenticity of the news was not low. Although it was a gossip and it has not been confirmed, the fact that the main force has strongly hit 430 centimeters level daily limit boards with real money and silver is real, which can largely prove the authenticity of the news. If it is fake news, the main force will definitely bury itself on the top of the mountain with such crazy tops, and it will not be able to ship at all. It is impossible for anyone to take over. You must know that Likon Technology is still a ticket of the Beijing Stock Exchange, and even if some retail investors want to take over, they cannot take over. As the news broke, the popularity index of Likon Technology soared straight up. There was even a posture of breaking the circle quickly, because Likon Technology is a company that produces, develops and sells sex toys. Such a company was invited to cooperate with Lingjing Technology, and Lingjing Technology and Xiao Yu are now well known. Another thing is that sex toys are quite special in themselves. After all, as a carbon-based organism, dry food and astringency are the two most primitive core driving forces. Add celebrities like Xiao Yu and high-tech companies like Lingjing Technology, and the topic and discussion will immediately soar. At this moment, even some self-media immediately began to post articles and shout that Brother Xiao has made efforts in the field of sex toys, AI sex toys are coming, and Kusanagi Mitako from Ghost in the Shell is coming. The majority of netizens who eat melons also came when they smelled the smell, and ran to Xiao Yu's personal Weibo account or sent private messages or comments, asking whether the news on the internet is true. In addition, the majority of netizens who eat melons said that they hope the rumored news must be true. As the news spread, the popularity of Lingjing Technology quickly soared. From the beginning, it could not enter the top 100 of the daily popularity list. Now it has directly rushed into the top 10 of the popularity list, and it is still soaring. The popularity is visibly increasing. Near the end of the trading day at 1440, major market software pushed news. Many concept stocks of adult products rose abnormally in the late trading. Guoshu Technology and Sibao Technology rose to the daily limit of plus 20% in the late trading. Zhejiang's Hongcheng, Ruber eCard, Amu shares and other stocks followed the rise. Lingjing Technology's driving force was formed all of a sudden with this gossip. This stock's 30 centimeters daily limit board topped the 4 consecutive boards in one breath, giving the market great confidence. However, the stock was firmly locked after the early trading, and it was impossible to buy it. Moreover, it was a stock of the Beijing Stock Exchange. Even if it was not closed, more than 90% of the stockholders could not buy the stocks of the Beijing Stock Exchange. If you can't buy it in the Beijing Stock Exchange, you can dig up the stocks of the Shanghai and Shenzhen Stock Exchanges. Quick reacting funds turned around and looked for stocks related to sex toys, and as the news spread, more and more people reacted. For example, Sibao Technology, one of the leading silicone companies in China, whose products cover the skin layer and joint seals of sex toys robots, Hanwei Technology, which provides electronic skin sensors for robot tactile feedback, Rubika, a global leader in wigs that can provide simulation wig modules for sex toys, and other related concept stocks were snapped up by funds in the late trading. Chapter 296, Big Hit, Breaking the Circle. On the weekend, the popularity rose further and broke the circle, causing a lot of heated discussions among netizens. When it comes to things like CC, netizens who like to watch the show said that they are not sleepy anymore. They went to Xiao Yu's Weibo to leave messages and make wishes, describing their own imaginary intelligent sex dolls, hoping that Xiao Jie can make them and sell them, preferably at a price that is not too expensive. Well, my heart can finally die. Today is Saturday, and Xiao Yu is also at Lingjing Technology. At this moment, he is watching the online discussion of intelligent sex dolls and feels a little helpless, because now the whole network is saying that he wants Lingjing Technology to enter the sex industry track and make intelligent sex AI robot beauties. All the related topics drag Xiao Yu into it, and he has no choice but to let the mouth grow on the majority of netizens. Xiao Yu immediately logged into his Weibo account and posted a Weibo, "Let's go, don't make wishes, Lingjing Technology is indeed making humanoid robots, and the progress is not bad. But it is not the kind of sex AI robot you expect, and Lingjing Technology has no plans to enter the sex industry track." Not long after he sent out the Weibo, Yunshu knocked on the door and came to his office. Seeing Xiao Yu, he immediately reported, "The company's negotiations with Zhou Chenggyang have basically been completed." Xiao Yu asked casually, "How is it?" Yunshu smiled and replied, "My cousin's husband wants to cling to your thighs without pretending. He didn't bargain for any of the requirements raised by Lingjing Technology. In his own words, he is willing to hand over the soul of Lingjing Technology to Lingjing Technology. Whatever standards the company sets, we will follow them and do whatever the company asks us to do." Hearing this, Xiao Yu couldn't help but laugh and said, "That's good. Your cousin's husband is a good partner. I was worried that he might have too many ideas of his own, and that future cooperation might have ideological differences with Lingjing Technology." Xiao Yu smiled and added, "Since President Zhou has said that he is willing to hand over his soul, there will be no potential ideological differences and conflicts. In addition, he is your relative, so I will lead his Lingjing Technology and let him win directly." The next weekend, Lingjing Technology issued an announcement that it had signed a strategic cooperation agreement with Lingjing Technology. Lingjing Technology provided the company with AI technology solutions, humanoid robots, prosthetic technology and other solutions. As soon as this announcement came out, it once again caused heated discussions across the entire network and caused quite a stir. The majority of netizens who were interested in Melons called it a must-support and threatened to buy it as long as the price was affordable. It turned out that Lingjing Technology did not enter the track of erotic products. It did not make terminal consumer products itself, but provided technical support for companies in this track. Lingjing Technology also announced the strategic cooperation with Lingjing Technology on its official website as soon as possible. Zhou Chenggyang was originally an unknown person, and netizens basically did not know him, but now his fame has soared. Mr. Zhou also has a Weibo account, but the number of followers is only tens of thousands, which is quite shabby. But now his account has been clicked and followed by many netizens, and the number of fans has skyrocketed. Many netizens who are interested in Melons not only went to Xiao Yu's Weibo to make a wish, but now they also came to him to make a wish. And Mr. Zhou also posted a Weibo this weekend, which immediately made him famous. What should we do if we have embraced Lingjing Technology? Of course, it is surrendering the soul plus giving up thinking equals winning by doing nothing. The soul of Lingjing Technology is deposited in Lingjing Technology. Although it has surrendered its soul, it can win by doing nothing. Isn't that good? Anyway, I think it's good. As soon as Mr. Zhou posted this Weibo, he made all the netizens laugh and said that Mr. Zhou was too real, and he didn't even pretend. Originally, I had a general impression of Mr. Zhou, but now his impression is full. Netizens didn't expect Mr. Zhou to be so good at making things happen. He looks like an unserious and fun person. This made many netizens follow him on the spot. Netizens joke that Mr. Zhou should go to the boss of series to sit down and chat. They will definitely resonate and they will definitely be able to talk. As we all know, series surrendered its soul and gained a win by doing nothing. Some netizens also joke that a certain automobile group that was unwilling to surrender its soul at this time felt offended. Mr. Zhou's operation is indeed a very successful marketing. He put down his status, was down to earth, and was willing to be a supporting role. It can be said that he was just clinging to the thighs and wanted to win by doing nothing. This won the favor of countless netizens. Sure enough, sincerity is the killer. His Weibo post covered his ID, and no one would doubt that it was a fun post posted by a netizen who was just eating melons. Obviously, Mr. Zhou's operation won the favor and conversion of netizens, and gave people a good first impression. This will be of great benefit to Lingjing Technology in the future, because Lingjing Technology is a terminal consumer product and needs to face consumers directly. And these netizens are the potential consumer audience groups of Lingjing Technology in the future. At present, some people have taken the initiative to learn about some of the fun products that Lingjing Technology is selling, and some have already placed orders to experience them. Lingjing Technology, which has been clinging to the thighs, has not only skyrocketed in fame, but also became the new darling of the capital market overnight, from being ignored to becoming a hot commodity that everyone is paying attention to. Many capital investment institutions have new schedules and have flocked to Lingjing Technology Company for research. Just because of the support of Lingjing Technology, the entire value of Lingjing Technology has been revalued. Recently, it has risen by the daily limit for 4 consecutive days, doubling, but the total market value is still just over 2 billion yuan. Almost all investors in the market agree that it is still seriously undervalued. Today is the weekend, and Lingjing Technology's popularity index on major market software is firmly ranked first, because investors are also searching for this company and paying attention to this company. Many investors cite why this stock is on the Beijing Stock Exchange. They have no chance to top the board overnight because they cannot meet the entry threshold of the Beijing Stock Exchange. However, some retail investors with trading rights in the Beijing Stock Exchange are queuing for overnight orders, directly placing orders at plus 30% of the daily limit price, including some hot money with VIP channels, who are also placing orders overnight, because as long as they can get in, they will make a lot of money steadily, and it is already clear. When Lingjing Technology opens next Monday, it will definitely top the 30-centimeter level daily limit without suspense. The previous 4 consecutive daily limits have doubled, and it has risen more than 3 times compared to the historical low. But even so, the total market value is only over 2 billion, which is absolutely seriously underestimated. For such tickets, funds are all brainless overnight. Those who can't buy Likon technology will go to the main board to explore related concept stocks in other sex toys. Everyone thinks that the sex toys track will become the new main concept theme in the next week. On Monday, driven by the huge positive news of the weekend, Likon technology opened with a daily limit without any suspense, and closed with a daily limit with a shrinking volume throughout the day. Likon technology has also become the first stock to go out of the high standard market of 5 consecutive boards since the establishment of the Beijing Stock Exchange. The stock price rushed to 5.69 yuan, and the market value climbed to 2.645 billion. The company's historical highest price was 6.02 yuan on the first day of listing. Tomorrow, this price will definitely be broken, setting a new historical high. There is no disagreement in the market. Likon technology also led to a big explosion of the concept theme of erotic products today. Its daily limit order was in line with the expectations of funds. Various funds no longer worried that this new theme might be a one-day trend, and dared to take over the relay to do more. The related concept stocks on the main board all performed well, and a daily limit wave was set off around 10 a.m. However, with such a big explosion, it is difficult to distinguish which one is the real leader. Of course, the overall leader of this new theme is undoubtedly Likon technology, but it is not, because there are not many retail investors who can participate in this ticket in the North Exchange market. The threshold blocks most of the stockholders, and the liquidity is just so. But when a new theme appears, funds cannot help but participate. It will definitely be explored on the main boards of the Shanghai and Shenzhen stock markets, and a popular leader on the main board will emerge. Likon technology is more like a sentiment indicator of this wave of new themes. Everyone will look at this ticket to strategize the main board tickets. As long as Likon technology continues to hit the board, it means that the erotic concept theme will not be extinguished, and the music can continue to play and dance. On Tuesday, Likon technology continued to rise by the daily limit, and it rose for 6 consecutive days. The stock price rose to 7.40 yuan. And the market value climbed to 3.441 billion, breaking through the historical high of 6.02 yuan in one fell swoop, setting a new high. After yesterday's chaos, today, the sentiment concept stocks on the main board have also begun to eliminate the weak and retain the strong. On Wednesday, Likon technology rose by the daily limit, achieving 7 consecutive boards. On Thursday, it once again achieved a daily limit, breaking the 8 consecutive boards, and also sent Likon technology stock price to 12.51 yuan, and the market value soared to 5.817 billion yuan. The cumulative increase in 8 days exceeded 7 times to plus 717.65%. If calculated from the historical lowest price of 1.07 yuan, Likon technology has achieved a 10-fold increase, and the cumulative increase in the range has reached plus 1069.16%. In the A-share market, 10-fold stocks are often a hurdle. Many big bull stocks reach a 10-fold cumulative increase, and the mood will reach its peak, and then begin to ebb. Stockholders commonly call it taking a graduation photo. After that, there will be a big drop, and then there will be a rebound, and then the long road of falling will begin. On Thursday, Likon technology achieved a 10-fold stock achievement. In addition, Thursday was called the legal dumping day by stockholders. The fun concept stocks hyped on the main board also entered a major divergence on Thursday, and many stocks that were hyped up fell sharply. The next day, Friday, everyone generally believed that Likon technology of the Beijing Stock Exchange should open today. Even if it opens with a daily limit, it should open during the trading session. After all, it has increased by 10 times. If it explodes at the opening, but the follow-up is very strong afterwards, it can turn from weak to strong, and then return to the T-shaped board. Then the main board can continue to play music and dance. During the morning call auction, various funds found that they were still small in pattern. There were 8.1 billion funds queuing up to receive goods on the board for the Likon technology buy auction, and no one withdrew the order at all. In the last 5 minutes of the bidding, orders could not be withdrawn, and the funds waiting to buy were still increasing, reaching 12.7 billion yuan. The funds waiting to receive the goods on the board were higher than the total market value of Likon technology itself. With such an outrageous bidding, there is a high probability that the board will not be broken today. After the opening, Likon technology opened at 16.26 yuan, up plus 29.98%, and once again opened with a daily limit. The company's market value also reached a historical high of 7.56 billion yuan. This is the 5th daily limit this week and the 9th consecutive daily limit for Likon Technology. The cumulative increase of 9 days and 9 boards is plus 962.75%. Compared with the historical lowest point of 1.07 yuan, it has increased by more than 14 times, reaching plus 1,419.62%. Seeing such a strong bidding by Likon Technology, various funds greatly exceeded expectations. Many fund concept stocks on the main boards of the two cities that weakened and dived at the end of yesterday's trading turned from weak to strong at the opening, and continued to play music and dance. After the weekend, in the new week, Likon Technology opened with a daily limit on Monday, giving people a feeling that the sky is the limit. It has gone through 10-30 centimeters level daily limits in a row, pushing the stock price to a historical high of 21.14 yuan, and the market value has reached 9.83 billion. However, today, the board was opened at around 10 o'clock in the intraday trading, and at the same time, a huge amount of volume was released, and it once dived to 17.38 yuan. The increase narrowed from plus 30.01% of the daily limit to plus 6.88%. Today, the intraday trading of the board had a loss of nearly 18 percentage points. But less than half an hour after the board was broken, Likon Technology turned from weak to strong, completed the return, and went out of the T-board with an ultra-long lower shadow, and after the return, it was closed until the closing. The speculative funds on the main boards of the two cities saw Likon Technology's weak turn to strong, and followed the differences to consensus, and continued to play music and dance. Likon Technology's trading volume today also increased to 970 million, and the daily turnover rate soared to 42%. For this stock, the performance of nearly 1 billion can be regarded as a huge amount. After all, it is a stock in the Beijing Stock Exchange market, and the circulation of Likon Technology is not large. The current total market value is close to 10 billion, and the circulating market value is only about 2 billion, accounting for about 1/5 of the total market value. At this moment, Zhao Mingji, a retail investor, successfully got on the train of Likon Technology on the day of the launch of the first board. He bought 200,000 yuan at a price of 1.47 yuan per share, and he almost missed it. After Zhao Mingji successfully got on the train, he has not sold a single share until now. Should I sell? No, Likon Technology has embraced Lingjing technology, so it can't have the potential of only 10 billion market value. It must have a market value of 50 billion, but it's unlikely to keep going up all the way. There should always be adjustments, right? Or should I sell some first to lock in profits, and then buy again after a correction? But what if there is no adjustment and I sell too much? Zhao Mingji, who was talking to himself, was entangled. He had been hesitating for a long time between selling and not selling. His cost price was 1.47 yuan, and the current stock price was 21.14 yuan. He had eaten all the 10 boards in 10 days. The cumulative rate of return not only broke 10 times, reaching plus 1,338.09%, and the floating profit of holdings reached 2.67 million yuan. In addition to the market value of Lingjing Technology, which he held, which was about 500,000, Zhao Mingji's net worth has now exceeded 3 million. Sell it for nothing. Continue to lock the position. Since the strategy before buying is long-term value investment, stick to the original intention and don't be affected by short-term market fluctuations. Continue to hold firmly. Zhao Mingji hesitated for a long time, and finally decided not to sell and choose to lock the position. Moreover, he was mentally prepared for a large retracement. Even if the surge in sentiment ebbs and falls from the high point, as long as the fundamental logic expectation of Likon Technology does not undergo a fundamental reversal, he will hold the stock. Anyway, the cost price is low enough, and he is determined to stick to the long-term strategy. Chapter 297, Make Mr. Zhou surrender his soul wholeheartedly. After Likon Technology had an epic 10-day winning streak, it failed to challenge the 11-day winning streak on Tuesday, which also indicated that the crazy market that lasted for 2 weeks had come to an end. This morning's bidding did not top the one-character board, but opened plus 29.00% higher at the price of 27.27 yuan, pushing the market value to 12.68 billion. Not more, not less, 1 percentage point short of the one-character daily limit. When seeing a pair of numbers appear, Many funds participating in this round of theme speculation began to be alert. Because in the A-share market, special stock price numbers such as pairs, leopards, and straights are often top signals, at least stage-by-stage top signals. Sure enough, Likon Technology's opening price today was the highest price of the day. After the opening, it quickly dived back. In just 5 or 6 seconds, it was smashed by more than 20 points, which also led to the dive of the entire concept theme of fun. This time it was really ebb tide, and it did not turn from weak to strong during the session. Likon Technology finally fell sharply after going out of the pair top, and went out of the first negative after closing. It fell by minus 2.03% after the market closed, and reported a price of 20.71 yuan, with a market value of 9.63 billion and a daily turnover of 1.218 billion. Although it only fell by 2 points at the close, it opened higher by plus 29% today. However, if you bid for Likon Technology in the morning, you will lose 24 points today. This big negative line is like a dark cloud covering the top. However, Likon Technology is a stock in the Beijing Stock Exchange market, and retail investors can basically not buy it. Retail investors who have the right to trade stocks in the Beijing Stock Exchange are also quite financially capable. Today, there are also people who risk their lives to take the lead and want to gamble on the expectation of tomorrow's counterattack. There are also people in the market who play the so-called leading first negative strategy, that is, a market leader with the most popularity has been rising all the way. After the first negative line appears, there is an expectation of a counterattack the next day. Likon Technology has been rising wildly for 2 weeks, with 10 boards recorded in 11 days. From the first board price of 1.53 yuan to today's highest price of 27.27 yuan, the cumulative increase in the interval has reached an astonishing plus 1,682.35%, which can be called the fastest stock in the A-share market to achieve the achievement of 10 times the first board. If calculated from the historical lowest point of 1.07 yuan 2 months ago, the cumulative increase in the interval has reached plus 2,448.59%, exceeding the cumulative increase of 24 times. This year, the most powerful stock in the A-share market has basically been locked in Likon Technology, which is listed on the Beijing Stock Exchange. There is no suspense. The maximum cumulative increase in the interval of 24 times is unmatched in the entire market. The surge in Likon Technology has made countless investors think of Lingjing Technology in 2022, and only the spiritual emperor of that year can calm it down. At that time, Lingjing Technology also rose to the point that the whole market doubted life. It was once rumored that it would be forced to delist, and the stock price was broken and exploded, and once fell to less than 50 cents per share. Now the market value of Lingjing Technology has reached 20 trillion yuan. Almost no one who participated in it at that time could have imagined that Lingjing Technology would reach a market value of 20 trillion yuan today. It has not only become the #1 A-share market value stock, but also won the title of the world's #1 market value stock several times. Speaking of which, during this period when Likon Technology soared, Lingjing Technology also rose for 2 weeks, from the lower track of the box oscillation platform of 230 yuan to 275 yuan. And the market value climbed to 23.87 trillion yuan. It came to the upper track of the box oscillation again, close to the historical high of 277.19 yuan. Lingjing Technology's rise in this period has accumulated a gain of nearly 20 percentage points, which is almost a 20-centimeter daily limit. The increase is certainly not comparable to Likon Technology's 16.8 times, but Lingjing Technology's size is there, and the market value soared to 3.9 trillion yuan with a 20-point increase. Likon Technology has increased more than 10 times. Even if calculated based on the historical high price of 27.27 yuan, its market value is only about 12.6 billion. Now Lingjing Technology's intraday fluctuation of 1 percentage point is a fluctuation of more than 200 billion in market value. Even if it fluctuates by 0.1 percentage point, it is still a fluctuation of more than 20 billion in market value, which is more than the current total market value of Likon Technology. Today's Lingjing Technology is no longer a small cap growth stock, but a supergiant of 20 trillion yuan. It is impossible to increase tenfold like it did in the past, or like the current Likon Technology. Now even a 20-centimeter daily limit is quite difficult. After all, the size is there. Likon Technology's market value is only more than 10 billion if it increases more than 10 times, but if Lingjing Technology increases 10 times, it will be more than 200 trillion, which is obviously impossible. Time came to the end of July. Zhou Chengyan came to Linsao City for the second time. This time he also brought a new product that Likon Technology was secretly developing. It was not released to the public. It was a high-end sex doll. He brought it to show the developers of the humanoid robot department of Lingjing Technology. Today, Xiao Yu was also in the humanoid robot department of Lingjing Technology. During this period, Xiao Yu asked the company's humanoid robot department to specially create a sex doll sample. At this moment, the head of the department, Lin Beiyu, looked at the extremely realistic sex doll in front of him and couldn't help but say, "Brother Xiao, will this help Mr. Zhou's self-confidence? Don't make him lose confidence." Xiao Yu crossed his arms, looked at the extremely beautiful simulation doll and smiled. He is also a technician. He said that he would hand over his soul to Lingjing Technology, but he may not be convinced in his heart. We are playing this trick to make him completely convinced to hand over his soul. This is crucial for the future cooperation. Lin Beiyu nodded. That's right. At this moment, someone in the department came to the two of them and reported, "Mr. Xiao, Mr. Zhou from Likon Technology will be here soon." Hearing this, Lin Beiyu immediately commanded, "Cover this doll first and invite him here." The two employees immediately found a piece of cloth to cover the sex doll completely. Xiao Yu next to him said with interest, "I wonder how the secret product that Mr. Zhou mentioned that has been developed for a long time is." After waiting for a while, Zhou Chengyan and others came to the R&D room, and two people were carrying a cardboard box about 2 meters long. Just after entering the R&D room, Xiao Yu turned around. When Zhou Chengyan saw him, he was stunned for a moment, and then he took small steps to greet him. "Mr. Xiao, nice to meet you. I didn't expect to see you here." Zhou Chengyan came to him and took the initiative to extend his hands. Xiao Yu also happily extended his right hand and shook hands with him politely. The two shook hands, one with one hand and the other with both hands. This detail can also fully explain who is in the lead. After a simple handshake, Xiao Yu smiled and said, "I heard that Mr. Zhou brought a secret product that Likon Technology is developing. I am also very curious, so I came to see it specially." Hearing this, Mr. Zhou hurriedly said, "That's great, it's an honor. Today I will show my ugliness to Mr. Xiao." Although he said so, Zhou Chengyan was quite confident. Likon Technology, which he was in charge of, had invested so much money in research and development over the years, and it had achieved a lot of results. Xiao Yu and Lin Beiyu looked at each other, smiled and said nothing, and President Zhou immediately ordered his men who came with him to open the cardboard box, and inside was a sex doll. After tearing open the transparent packaging bag inside, two people lifted the sex doll out and made it stand. This sex doll of Likon Technology was wearing a summer cool outfit, and the texture of the bionic skin was very good. As a product of artificial manufacturing, its body proportions were naturally good, and its appearance was also very beautiful. "It looks heavy. How heavy is it?" Xiao Yu couldn't help but ask curiously, and at this moment, several technical developers of the Department of Lingjing Technology also came forward to watch. Zhou Chengyan replied, "About 275 kilograms." Upon hearing the number, Lin Beiyu next to him couldn't help but say, "It's a bit heavy. It's hard to do it, haha." As soon as these words came out, the onlookers burst into laughter. Zhou Chengyan also said with a smile, "It's a bit heavy, but we have also made great progress in lightweighting." Xiao Yu nodded and said nothing, while Zhou Chengyan immediately introduced the simulated doll. He said, "The biggest technical highlight of this product is the joint freedom, including shoulder joints, upper arm joints, elbow joints, hip joints, leg joints, knee joints, etc." Zhou Chengyan said proudly, "The main joints of the human body have only 64 degrees of freedom. Our product has achieved 62 degrees of freedom, which is basically equivalent to the main joints of the human body." It is worth mentioning that the human body's joint freedom, taking into account more details, such as the spine, exposed bones, etc., the number of degrees of freedom is far more than 64, but 244. Zhou Chengyan went on to say, "Such a rich degree of freedom of joints also allows this simulation doll to complete more complex operation tasks, such as grabbing eggs, opening bottle caps, etc. Of course, this product cannot open the bottle cap by itself. The AI aspect of the software levels our weakness. To put it bluntly, This simulation doll of Likon technology has no soul, but has made good progress in the hardware level. Xiao Yu nodded and commented, "It is already very impressive to be able to achieve this level." Frankly speaking, Xiao Yu was actually a little surprised. There are now 100 or 200 robot companies emerging in China, and they are still increasing rapidly. Some companies specializing in humanoid robots have greater financial strength and scale than Likon technology, but their products are really not as good as Likon technology. Xiao Yu said, "I really didn't expect that a company that makes sex products could achieve this level of humanoid robots. It is really surprising." Lin Beiyu smiled and said, "It is indeed not simple. This has been able to surpass more than 90% of the peers in the industry, but then again, it depends on who you are benchmarking against. Compared with other peer companies in the industry, Likon Technology's product is amazing, but if compared with a humanoid robot department of Lingjing Technology, there is a gap, and the gap is very, very large." Mr. Zhou was also very happy to hear the comments of the two people. He said happily, "I personally think that the hardware cost of robots is currently controllable. On the contrary, the key to restricting the development of the humanoid robot industry is that robot AI has not yet reached a critical point. The current AI is still in the plateau period." Zhou Chenggyang paused for a moment and added, "If there is a company that can make a relatively strong general AI, Likon Technology can completely produce 200,000 humanoid robot products a year. There is no problem. The hardware part is relatively easy to solve. The real difficulty at present is that the highly intelligent general AI large model has not been completed." Zhou Chenggyang turned to look at Xiao Yu and smiled and said, "In the field of AI, only Lingjing Technology is the strongest in the country. If Lingjing Technology can't make a general AI, I don't think any company can do it." As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Yu said calmly, "There is no problem with AI. Lingjing Technology has already made breakthrough progress, but it has not been released yet. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 298, Zhou Chenggyang is shocked. "Your company's AI has made another major breakthrough?" Zhou Chenggyang was immediately cheered up when he heard this. Since Xiao Yu said it himself, it must be true. After a while, Zhou Chenggyang said excitedly, "If this secret product of our company is empowered by Lingjing Technology's AI, it can be said to be injected with soul, and its competitiveness will be greatly increased. In addition, the cost will be greatly reduced, and everyone can afford it. There's a lot to look forward to." Hearing this, Xiao Yu was quite surprised, and immediately said, "Oh? Everyone can afford it. How much did you originally plan to sell this product for?" Zhou Chenggyang immediately answered concisely, "The price is 54,999 yuan. My goodness." When this price was mentioned, Xiao Yu was stunned on the spot, and only said two words, "Too expensive." Lin Beiyu next to him also complained immediately, "The price of 55,000 yuan means that everyone can afford it. Mr. Zhou, do you have any misunderstanding about everyone can afford it? People with a monthly income of 3,000 can indeed afford it if they don't eat or drink for 2 or 3 years. By this calculation, everyone can afford it, but this is called being able to afford it at any cost. More than 50,000 yuan is not a small amount, but it is not an astronomical figure that is out of reach. But the key question is whether you are willing to buy it. The answer is that it is absolutely impossible for ordinary consumers to pay more than 50,000 yuan to buy a sex doll. Most people are not willing to spend this money. After all, this is not a rigid product. Buying a mold for 100 or 200 yuan can also meet basic needs. Even worse, don't you still have hands?" Hearing this complaint, Zhou Chenggyang was quite embarrassed. Lin Beiyu said again, "Mr. Zhou, frankly speaking, if you really set this price to launch it on the market, it is likely to fail miserably. At a price of more than 50,000 yuan, people who don't need this money don't need it, and people who need it can't afford it." He added, "In my opinion, this product, with this technical content and somatosensory quality, is about right for more than 5,000 yuan. Even if it is more expensive, it can't exceed 10,000 yuan. If the price is more than 10,000 yuan, not many will be sold. In fact, objectively speaking, in terms of the quality and somatosensory quality of Likon Technology's product, The price of more than 50,000 yuan is indeed the lowest price in the industry. If other peers can achieve this level, they may be twice as expensive. But then again, consumers don't care about these. It is absolutely unacceptable to spend more than 50,000 yuan to buy a fun simulation doll. If it is really sold at this price, Likon Technology's product will 100% become a super niche product, and it is impossible to recover the research and development costs. When Zhou Chengyang heard what Lin Beiyu said, he couldn't help but say weakly, if we really sell it at a price of more than 5,000 yuan, Likon Technology will go bankrupt the next day. The implication is that in the current technical environment, it is absolutely impossible to sell this product at a price of more than 5,000 yuan while ensuring that the physical feel and quality of this product are not downgraded. After a while, Lin Beiyu suddenly looked at Xiao Yu and smiled knowingly. Lin Beiyu turned to look at Zhou Chengyang and smiled. During this period, the development team of the humanoid robot department of our company has specially created a fun simulation doll. Is Mr. Zhou interested in taking a look? Zhou Chengyang, who heard this, immediately became interested and said curiously, that's what I want, it's a good opportunity for us to communicate. Lin Beiyu immediately turned his head and signaled to a subordinate next to him. The latter understood his meaning and quickly came to a large table next to him. Xiao Yu and others also turned around. Zhou Chengyang followed his gaze and noticed that the large table in the R&D room was wrapped in a piece of cloth. The employee immediately lifted the cloth, and Zhou Chengyang and the two men who came with him stepped forward and cast their eyes. After taking a closer look, President Zhou was stunned on the spot, with an incredible expression on his face. He subconsciously said, President Xiao, this can't be a real person, right? The simulated doll sat elegantly on the table, as if a natural robot beauty was born under the perfect intersection of technology and art, as if it was a loving tribute to human aesthetics in the future world, as if it was the most perfect creation of an artist, and every detail revealed extraordinary refinement and harmony. She has a head of shiny silky hair, which falls softly on her shoulders, like a spring under the moonlight, sparkling with charming luster. Her face is like a carefully carved gem, with distinct facial features, three-dimensional and harmonious, exquisite and soft, and every detail reveals a perfection beyond reality. Her skin is smooth like jade, exuding a warm luster, delicate and elastic, as if you can feel her every subtle breath and her vitality. Her lips are soft and full, with a slightly upward arc, like a newly opened petal, exuding an alluring charm, and always seeming to carry a mysterious smile, making people want to find out more. Her figure is elegant and well-proportioned, with perfect proportions, and every detail reveals natural fluency and harmony. Under the light, this robot beauty seems to be endowed with life, full of agility and elegance, making people admire the magic of technology and human pursuit of beauty. At this moment, Zhou Chengyang walked slowly to the robot beauty, looked at her closely, and couldn't help but exclaimed, this is not an industrial product, but a work of art. The perfect combination of technology and art is a miracle that perfectly combines human wisdom with the beauty of nature. It is simply the highest praise for human wisdom and creativity. Mr. Zhou was really amazed by the simulated doll in front of him, and was deeply shocked. Compared with it, his secret product is simply a world apart. Just from the appearance and the texture of the bionic skin, it is obvious that there is a huge gap between the two. Originally, Mr. Zhou was quite proud of his flagship product, but now he is not proud of it at all. He always thought that Likon Technology was strong in hardware, but when compared with Lingjing Technology, there was such a big gap. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is a chasm. In fact, Likon Technology is indeed very strong as long as it does not compete with Lingjing Technology, but Xiao Yu has Blue Star Technology to rely on, and competing with Lingjing Technology is no different from facing a cheater. Zhou Chengyang's reaction at this moment was within the expectations of Xiao Yu and Lin Beiyu. After a while, Xiao Yu smiled and said, Beiyu, please briefly introduce the technical details to Mr. Zhou. Lin Beiyu nodded, then signaled Zhou Chengyang, then turned to look at the beautiful humanoid robot in front of him and introduced, this specially made simulation doll is made of medical-grade liquid silicone and medical-grade TPE according to our internal secret ratio. It is formed through a molecular-level fusion process to form a three-layer bionic skin structure. The surface layer is 0.1 mm ultra-thin silicone to simulate the texture of real human skin. The middle layer of memory foam cushioning achieves 0.05 nCm pressure feedback, and the bottom TPE support layer provides 150% superelastic ductility. In terms of skeleton structure, It adopts a space-grade composite skeleton structure. The main support structure uses a woven grid of carbon fiber and titanium alloy. While ensuring a height of 170 centimeters and a dead weight of only 39 kilograms, it achieves a bending strength of 1,200 N. The joint system is equipped with a micro-precision gear set and uses a bionic ligament with a PEEK polymer coating. It can simulate a total of 244 degrees of freedom in the human body, which is highly consistent with the number of degrees of freedom in the real human body, and the single joint repeat positioning accuracy is 0.02 mm. Zhou Chenggyang was dumbfounded again when he heard Lin Beiyu's preliminary introduction to these details. This, putting aside other things, the weight index was blown away. 39 kilograms is only 78 pounds, and the overall weight is less than 80 pounds. In contrast, the simulated doll secretly developed by Zhou Chenggyang weighs 275 pounds, a direct weight reduction of 71.6%, which is less than one-third of the weight. Lin Beiyu continued to introduce him in an orderly manner. The core processing unit is equipped with a customized AI chipset that supports 800+ semantic recognition scenarios. The eye module uses a flexible curved screen to simulate iris dynamics, and cooperates with a micro-vibration motor to achieve 0.1 second expression response. The bionic tongue equipped in the oral system is equipped with 32 sets of pressure sensors and temperature sensing arrays, and is equipped with a customized acoustic module, which can achieve 12 modes of voice interaction and breathing sound effects. In addition, its internal intelligent temperature control system, through the distribution of 128 micro-temperature sensors throughout the body, adjusts 35 independent heating units in real time to ensure that the body's surface temperature fluctuates by plus or minus 0.3 degrees Celsius. The chest module uses our original gel technology, which achieves a constant temperature touch of 37.2 through temperature-controlled phase change materials, and cooperates with a dynamic displacement of bionic breast tissue to highly restore the real physiological texture. The power system uses magnetic suspension linear drive technology. Combined with the bionic pelvic muscle group, it can achieve 11 frequencies of rhythmic movement. All electronic components are encapsulated with military-grade waterproof packaging, reaching the IP67 waterproof level, and with a molecular-level moisture-proof coating, it can ensure all-weather safety. In the next few minutes, Lin Beiyu further introduced him to more technical details of this robot beauty. Zhou Chenggyang was shocked by the whole process, and his eyes were full of incredible. I thought that today I could show off my proud secret product in front of my partners. I modestly said that I would show off, but I didn't expect it to be a real show. When Mr. Zhou recalled the scene of introducing his product just now, he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. It turns out that the other party's praise of his secret product before was just a humble statement. At the end, Zhou Chenggyang, who was shocked, took a deep breath. He looked at Lin Beiyu and Xiao Yu and suddenly said, "Such a craft, such a technical content, and a collection of so many advanced and innovative technologies, I think the cost will definitely not come down without a few million." Right, Mr. Zhou's words were a bit like the last stubborn attempt to save a little face for himself. After all, Lin Beiyu had complained that his secret product was too expensive before, but he also firmly believed that the cost of this fun simulation doll of Lingjing technology must be sky high, and the cost must be in 7 figures. Lin Beiyu suddenly turned his head to look at the big boss, and after getting a positive look from Xiao Yu, Lin Beiyu turned to look at Zhou Chenggyang and smiled. "Mr. Zhou, maybe you don't believe it, but the numbers I said are absolutely true and there is no falsehood. The overall material cost of this simulation doll does not exceed 20,000 yuan. Critical hit. It was definitely a critical hit, plus real damage." Zhou Chenggyang's eyes widened when he heard this number, and he exclaimed in shock, "What? The total material cost is less than 20,000 yuan. Chapter 299, completely convinced, wholeheartedly convinced. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Zhou Chenggyang walked around the lifelike robot beauty on the table, looking at it and said in disbelief, "Absolutely impossible. How could the total material cost of such a work not exceed 20,000 yuan? I won't believe it even if you kill me." Lin Beiyu next to him moved a few steps, tilted his head and whispered in Xiao Yu's ear, "Brother Xiao, I'll tell you, if you tell him this number, he will definitely lose his composure on the spot." Xiao Yu just smiled slightly when he heard it, and didn't say anything. At this moment, President Zhou completely ignored Xiao Yu and the others, but was constantly looking at the lifelike doll. He touched the skin of a lifelike doll several times, muttering to himself, "The texture of the skin, the details of the texture, my god. How can it be made with less than 20,000 yuan?" After a long time, Zhou Chengayang adjusted his mirror tactically and turned to look at Xiao Yu and Lin Beiyu. "This is definitely not possible to be made with a cost of less than 20,000 yuan. Lin Beiyu smiled and said, "This is indeed a product of the perfect intersection of art and technology. But President Zhou, although it has brought together many innovative and advanced technologies and integrated a large number of precision devices, it is still an industrial product after all." After a pause, Lin Beiyu added, "According to the data shown by our internal estimation model, if this product can be mass-produced and use our smart factory solution, the overall cost can be further reduced by 1/3. Hearing this, President Zhou's face twitched, and his voice was hoarse. "My god. Can this reduce costs by 1/3? Zhou Chengayang was really about to kneel down. How could this be possible? After a moment, Mr. Zhou suddenly asked, "What about the R&D cost? Is it included?" "The R&D cost must be an astronomical figure, with so many innovative technologies on display." Xiao Yu, who didn't say much, said with a mysterious smile, "The R&D cost is confidential. This is a trade secret of Lingjing technology." Xiao Yu added, "But there is one thing I can tell you clearly, its R&D cost will not be included in this project, because the related technologies of the fun bionic dolls are all derived from other projects of our company. We just took them over and integrated them, so you can understand that there is no R&D cost, or the R&D cost is very small." R&D cost? What Xiao Yu wanted to say was that this was the technology he brought over from the Blue Star world, and the R&D cost was actually zero. Speaking of which, even Lin Beiyu didn't know how much the R&D cost was, because Xiao Yu didn't tell him, because there was no R&D cost at all. Zhou Chengayang was stunned again when he heard what he said, and immediately said with a wry smile, "Okay." At this moment, Mr. Zhou's confidence was hit hard, and he was howling in his heart, "Damn it. These technologies are actually derived from another project of yours?" With just this integration, a humanoid robot simulation doll of cross-arrow level was created? How can others play with it? At this moment, Mr. Zhou was completely convinced, absolutely convinced. In front of Xiao Yu and Lingjing technology, he no longer dared to talk about technology. Zhou Chengayang was suddenly very glad to be able to hold the thigh of Lingjing technology. With their terrifying technical strength, once this simulation doll is launched on the market, it will definitely kill all the competitors on the market. As for this doll, its quality, physical sensation and technical content, I think there will be a huge market even if it is priced at 100,000 yuan. Zhou Chengayang looked at the fun simulation doll on the table again and commented, "If it is really priced at 100,000 yuan, it is definitely not affordable for the general public. But the quality of this simulation doll is there, and the general consumers may not be able to afford it, but they will not think it is not worth the price, and it is completely attractive enough to attract the consumer group that can pay this price. After all, this has to be said again, there are still many rich people in this world. Putting aside other things, those who are willing to spend tens of thousands of yuan or even more to buy customized high-end sex dolls will definitely not refuse this sex doll. In other words, it can easily kill all these competing products, beat them without any resistance, and dig all their original customers." Xiao Yu shook his head and said slowly, "What I hope is to be able to become a product that the public can afford, so the price should be as close to the people as possible. If the public consumers can't afford it, it means that the technology needs to be broken through." It is worth mentioning that Xiao Yu's way of calculating this account is completely different from Zhou Chengayang. Zhou Chengayang may only be calculating the account of this product itself, but Xiao Yu's account is obviously bigger, because there is a potential problem that he has to consider. That is, with the implementation of single-organ cloning technology, human life expectancy has doubled, and it will be followed by a huge population pressure dilemma, which cannot be avoided. Although the current population birth rate continues to decline year after year, if the life expectancy increases significantly, it will completely reshape the current population birth and death ratio. Even if the current birth rate in China hits record low, as long as the life expectancy of people living in the world doubles, the population size in China will still increase significantly in the next 10 years. According to this trend, in as little as 30 years and as long as 50 years, the absolute number of the national population will double, soaring directly to a terrifying scale of 3 billion. This is still based on the current fertility rate. Although there are less than 10 million newborns a year now, it seems that there are only 300 million newborns in 30 years. But the actual situation is not so simple. The substantial increase in life expectancy will greatly reshape the existing pattern of today's society, including the thoughts and values of the entire society, which will undergo earth-shaking changes. On this side, the absolute number of deaths in the population is continuously decreasing due to the sharp increase in life expectancy, while the absolute number of births in the population is surging. In this state of growth and decline, the absolute increase in the national population will soar at an alarming rate. If the average life expectancy of the whole people is expected to increase by 100 years, it will take about 100 years for the natural death rate and birth rate to achieve a new dynamic balance. If it is expected to increase by 200 years, it will take about 200 years. In the 100 or 200 years when life expectancy increases, it is equivalent to the birth of 100 newborns, but the number of people who die naturally is zero, and the net population growth rate is 100%. Under this situation, the population will inevitably exceed the carrying capacity of resources, leading to disasters such as famine, war and disease, and the population will return to the level that resources can carry, which is the so-called Malthusian trap. Before the survival boundary of civilization has completely broken out of the Earth and expanded to the solar system, relying solely on the existing resources of the Earth, superimposed on the sudden increase in life expectancy, the population explosion will definitely usher in the Malthusian trap. In other words, before the Earth completely breaks through the first-level planetary civilization, it must avoid the Malthusian trap and must curb the explosive growth of the absolute number of population. Obviously, Xiao Yu is quite keen on promoting fun simulation dolls, because this product has a certain role in curbing the population surge. Of course, to curb the population surge, we must not rely entirely on fun simulation dolls, including but not limited to this. At that time, there will definitely be other plans at the national level to promote together. When we enter the level of secondary stellar civilization one day in the future, the situation will definitely be different. We will have to change our ways and use various methods to encourage people to have children, so as to expand the overall size of the human population. Because after reaching the second-level stellar civilization, the population scale that can be carried by the resources it controls will be calculated in units of hundreds of billions, and hundreds of billions of people can be easily carried. But looking at the next 30 or 50 years, it must be curbed to avoid overheating of the population and exceeding the carrying capacity of the Earth's resources. Fun simulation dolls must have a good effect in curbing population growth, so Xiao Yu is naturally very keen to promote this matter, and the same is true at the national level. In addition to being effective in curbing overheated population growth, this product can be of great help in promoting the harmony and stability of social security. The two things of drier rice and bitterness are the most primitive internal driving forces of carbon-based life. Young guys are full of vigor and vitality, but they can't find girlfriends. The current trend is to avoid marriage and fear marriage, but their vigorous energy has nowhere to be released, and their emotions cannot be comforted. There are more and more such people, and they have even become the mainstream. It is only a matter of time before trouble arises. This gentle and considerate cyberglue wife-girlfriend is a good solution. It can also reduce the number of young guys going out to have a look, and it also has a positive effect on curbing the spread of sexually transmitted diseases and can reduce the cost of social public governance. It can be seen that this product has a very positive effect on the current environment and can solve many problems directly or indirectly. This is also the reason why Xiao Yu must make this product popular and cannot make it a niche product, because only when it becomes a mass product that everyone can really afford can the many potential problems mentioned above be solved. Chapter 300, Product Pricing. 10 minutes later, Xiao Yu invited Zhou Chengyang to the next room. Lin Bei was also there. There were only 3 of them in the room. Xiao Yu looked at Zhou Chengyang and said, "Mr. Zhou, I have a suggestion. Don't make that product. Just stop it completely and free up all the resources." Zhou Chengyang hesitated. This, stopping it completely would mean that all the R&D expenses invested in the past years would go down the drain. Xiao Yu did not hesitate at all and said straightforwardly, "For the simulation doll we just showed, Lingjing Technology has solved the main technical problems. I want to package all the products directly to you, Lingjing Technology, for the consumer terminal business. Lingjing Technology will take care of all the technical support, and you, Lingjing Technology, will be responsible for branding and operations, and manage the terminal consumer business." Zhou Chengyang, who was originally hesitant, was stunned on the spot when he heard this, but in fact, he was ecstatic in his heart. After he reacted, he said without hesitation on the spot, "Since the soul has been handed over to Lingjing Technology, President Xiao, I choose to win by lying down. You say what to do, and Lingjing Technology will do it. Are you kidding? What is this situation?" President Zhou already understood it very well. Especially after visiting the fun simulation dolls made by Lingjing Technology, Zhou Chengyang further realized that Lingjing Technology was willing to cooperate with Lingjing Technology, which was a blessing from heaven. If Lingjing Technology wants to do this business by itself or find other manufacturers to cooperate, that erotic doll will definitely kill all the competitors in the industry, and Lingjing Technology's previous investment will be worthless. Because in front of Lingjing Technology's erotic doll, there is no competitiveness at all. It is a dimensionality reduction attack style instant kill in all aspects, and the price is even 2 or 3 times cheaper than Lingjing Technology's so-called secret product. This exaggerated gap is useless. It is better to go bankrupt and liquidate early than to compete with it, and you can still save more money. At this moment, Xiao Yu couldn't help laughing when he heard what he said. Haha, Mr. Zhou is really a real person with a true temperament. After a pause, Xiao Yu pondered for a moment and added, in terms of rights and responsibilities and the distribution of benefits, a series of comprehensive costs such as production costs, operating costs, and marketing costs are all borne by Lingjing Technology. Deducting the comprehensive costs, according to the net profit of the product, 70% for me and 30% for you. How about it? Mr. Zhou nodded without hesitation and said, that's absolutely right, let alone 70% for me, I can accept 20% for you. Lingjing Technology has no right to bargain at all. Zhou Chengyang is very clear about this. It is not an exaggeration to say that being able to cooperate with Lingjing Technology is giving Lingjing Technology a meal. This meal, Lingjing Technology is giving it to anyone? Even if no one is given, Lingjing Technology will eat it all by itself without any problem, because its technical strength is there. In this situation, how dare Mr. Zhou bargain? Closing his eyes and handing over his soul is the most correct way to open it. Speaking of which, Zhou Chengyang still doesn't quite understand why Lingjing Technology doesn't do this end consumer business by itself. It's no problem with this strength. But then again, if Lingjing Technology really builds its own brand and does end consumer business by itself, then there will be no Lingjing Technology, and it will be beaten to the ground by Lingjing Technology as a competitor without any ability to fight back. But Mr. Zhou doesn't have to worry about these problems now, because Lingjing Technology has already embraced Lingjing Technology's thighs, and this worry should be other payers. At the end, Zhou Chengyang couldn't help but ask curiously, Mr. Xiao, how much do you plan to price this product for sale? It is worth mentioning that the production cost of the sex simulation entity doll industry is relatively low, but the sales price is not low. Generally, it can reach a profit margin of more than 300%, and the profit margin of some high-end customized products can even reach more than 500%. However, because this track is too niche and the profit margin is high, the overall market size is not large. Xiao Yu wants to promote it as a mass consumer product. What he wants is the market size, so the profit margin of the product must not be so exaggerated. Too high a price will affect popularization. Hearing Zhou Chengyang's question, Xiao Yu seemed to be talking to himself and said, if we reduce the cost by 1/3, it will be about 13,000 yuan. If we take into account the 20% subsidy from the state, it can be further reduced to about 10,000 yuan. Zhou Chengyang was stunned when he heard this and said, how could the state subsidize this product? Xiao Yu smiled and said, I will promote this matter. I won't say that I will give a 100% subsidy, but there is a high possibility of giving it. Obviously, Xiao Yu was going to write a document and submit it. In the foreseeable future, with a sharp increase in life expectancy and the resulting population pressure, this product can objectively provide a boost to solving the huge population pressure, and the probability of national funding subsidies is very high. And this is not necessarily a pure loss for the national level. Because this product can also provide benefits in promoting social harmony and stability, and can also reduce the spread of sexually transmitted diseases, which can save medical expenses. The total cost of comprehensive public governance may be more than the subsidy. Zhou Chengyang obviously hadn't thought of this level, at least not yet, but he believed it, because Xiao Yu was now a treasure of the country, and his voice would definitely be taken seriously by the upper echelons. At this moment, Xiao Yu went on to say, It's not advisable to take too much profit. Too much will be too expensive, which is not conducive to expanding the market scale and popularizing it. Xiao Yu thought for a while and said, it should be a net profit margin of about 15%, and the highest net profit margin cannot exceed 20%, Zhou Chengyan calculated in his mind. If the net profit of 15% is divided into 30% and 70%, then for Likon technology, it is only a net profit margin of 3.91%. Such a high-end high-tech product actually sits at the same table with a profit margin of the mid- and low-end manufacturing industry. After a moment, Zhou Chengyan couldn't help but say weakly, Boss Xiao, isn't this profit margin a bit too low? Xiao Yu said calmly. The greatest significance of this product is not how much money it makes, but to expand the market scale, and the profit margin can maintain the operation of the enterprise. My definition of the success of this product is that consumers dare not require confidentiality of delivery, dare to place orders openly, and even dare to go out with their cyberglue wives. This is the real success. Obviously, Xiao Yu wants to break the psychological shackles of the general public of consumers, and no longer be ashamed of such things. As long as more people use it, everyone will be relaxed. It just takes a little time. And this layout plan is also Xiao Yu's preparation for the subsequent housekeeper-level simulation products, which can shine in application scenarios such as elderly care, patient assistance, and comprehensive housekeeping services. This is the real highlight. When the majority of consumers have adapted to this new thing, it will be as commonplace as mobile phones and cars. The subsequent second, third, and fourth generation products were continuously upgraded, gradually making the capabilities of the erotic dolls more and more powerful, and they could do more and more things, and naturally transitioned to housekeeper-level erotic doll products, and that was when the high value-added profits began to be released. Zhou Chengyan didn't have much to say, just do whatever the boss wants, and that's it. He only had one rule in his mind now, and he didn't need to think too much, and hugged Mr. Xiao's thigh tightly. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.